Good afternoon, morning, or even evening. This is episode 24 of the Lookout Sir 40k podcast, and you're listening to me, Dan, and as always, my good buddy Joe. How's it going, Joe?
I'm pretty good. I am in my nerd room getting my sweat on. It's so hot here.
What an absolute delight to hear about. Were you in any way confused by the order in which I broke up the times of day? Surely I should have said good morning, afternoon, or evening, as opposed to afternoon, morning, evening, as I did. It was a bit of a weird vibe, but I pulled it off, I thought.
That's too Hollywood. We don't need that.
No? Is that not normally the format? I've broken the usual kind of introduction that I do, and thus people are like, no, I'm out! No more.
And for the second time, it's only me, so it throws out the order. But I feel like because I'm used to just sitting in absolute silence whilst you and Phil be your buddy with that.
That is the way it normally goes, it has to be said. So Phil isn't with us again. Not that he's not recorded segments for this episode. At this point of recording, today is Wednesday the 3rd of July, and Phil joined us. Was it last Friday we recorded?
Yeah, it was like a weird late one for us.
Yeah, it was a weird late one. I think we recorded on Friday the 28th as well, and Phil was able to join us for that, alongside Richie as well. So Phil and Richie are in this episode. Although, to be honest with you, I don't think Phil said an awful lot when you were talking about your army list for GT Heat 2.
It's Eldar and it's Harlequins and Dark Eldar, so he's all like, I don't know.
I have no idea. I enjoyed the fact, Joe, as well, that when you're kind of removed from the excuse of, talking the whole way through the show or contributing the whole way through the recording of said show, that you're still painting in the background.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Brilliant.
That's just cats painting and doing art in general.
I see. Yeah. Well, that will explain the rate of which you're able to paint armies. You've trained all your cats to do it.
Yep, it's the only way. Dogs, not so useful. They do things. Although apparently pigs are really intelligent. And I imagine their little trotters would be quite good at holding the paintbrush.
Quite possibly. I mean, I imagine you'd need to kind of wedge it in between that little kind of like trottery V bit that they've got. That bit there. But yeah, I imagine the cat is a better animal for precision painting though, right?
Yeah.
If any animal was going to do it, it would be some form of monkey or a cat, I imagine.
Well, they trained an elephant to do it, so not paint Warhammer, just kind of hit a piece of paper with a paintbrush. And they called it art.
We are doing some fantastic things in the pursuit of greater enlightenment and, taking forwards the overall human endeavour. I mean, I'm impressed, fundamentally by the idea that a group of individuals have the time, energy, and ability to convince an elephant to slap a wall with a paintbrush and deem it as art. That's a fantastic step forwards for the human race, I'd say, right there.
Well, if you think about it, Back to the Future said that we'd have like hoverboards and flying cars by now, and we'd all be dressed in some real crazy Larry rave colours, and life would just be amazing. But right now we've got elephants, slapping paper, and Love Island.
We also have the ongoing, benefits of, communications over the internet. I think that's probably stunted our growth as a populace and people. I think with the introduction of, communication technology, we've, looked past the need for a flying car and settled with the ability to send amusing emojis or to abuse each other over the internet. That's always fun.
Yeah, that's what the internet was designed for.
I think it was, one of the greatest pieces of, brainwashing and propaganda to create the internet. We didn't know what we were unleashing onto the world when we gave them the internet. Not that you and I gave them the internet. I'm talking more about the collective we that is the human race. I think we've, done a fantastic job with the introduction of that and how that kind of, it basically, I imagine it's the only reason why cars don't fly is the internet's fault.
Yeah. But you can listen to this podcast in your car.
And fly via your imagination into the wondrous world of Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer 40,000 related accessories.
Oh, that's pretty good. I think even for me, that was a pretty good plug. I'm
Mate,
going to keep.
absolutely. There you go. I mean, this is the thing. Thanks to that bit that you did there, you've reminded them of the benefits of listening to a podcast, and they will remain throughout, wouldn't you say?
I bloody well hope so.
I bloody well hope so too, my friend. Sorry. What have you been up to, Joe? You were on that Winter's CEO. Oh, no, SEO. Sorry, not CEO. That was a fighting game tournament.
SEO. Well, I was actually on Winter's channel like 2 months ago. It's such is the amount of work that he puts in and the amount of videos he does. You could be filming it today in this blissful sun, and then in 2 months' time, he can release it into the world. Because he's a busy boy. But yeah, we did a battle report. I think we're gonna try and get him on the channel so he can tell you about the magic of making YouTube battle reports.
Sorry, we're going to get him on his channel?
On this channel.
Oh, you mean on this podcast?
This channel, yeah.
Ah, that makes more sense.
To talk about his channel on this channel /podcast.
There you go.
Thing. And I will say, I'm going to say now, I absolutely murdered the intro and the talking about our channel as well.
I mean, you were awful at that.
I was off. I completely forgot what we were called. I completely forgot where we put all this information out into the world. It was like you sit down to an exam and you're like, I've forgotten my name. I've forgotten the date. Like, it's like all those horrible dreams and you've got like no pants on. It's just, you're just there open to the world. And I completely forgot it and I made a right hash of it. But you're here now, listening, hopefully, or you're listening to someone else.
Well,
and
absolutely.
I've got rid of all of our listeners, but that's fine.
Exactly. Well, you did a good job, Joe, and I think, ultimately it's a wonderful thing for the people out there to have seen your beautiful cuddly face and understand your dedication to the creed of playing Warhammer 40,000. And you did an excellent job of running my Deathwatch army, which was rather cool. Which,
at the time, it was my Deathwatch army.
Well, you say that.
You'd already declared, like, when I was making that army, that you can't wait to own it. So
it's true. And now I do. Such is the way of things. I haven't done anything nearly as exciting as being on Winter's SEO or whatever. I've been building lots of models, which is, standard. I'm getting prepared for the arrival of my gaming table. So that's going to be an exciting turn of events when that really expensive table arrives, and I'll be like, it's kind of like what it was before, I guess. It's just in a nicer table, and
you'll be like the Ron Burgundy of the group, and you'll be like, you should come to my house, and see my rich mahogany and my many lead-bound books of Warhammer.
It's true. I think I will immediately have the buyer's remorse within like 10 minutes of it arriving. I'll be like, why did I actually buy this? It doesn't fundamentally change anything. And actually, it sits in my garage, for God's sakes. It's like, what have I done here? But it's all in the for the prospect of future opportunities. If I get everything set up, maybe we could become like a Winter's SEO and do battle reports and things of that nature. Who could say?
And then we'll become buddies, best buddies. Not you and me, but obviously we're already best buddies. At least I hope we are.
Well, that's the impression we like to give out for the ratings, isn't it? We're not really friends actually outside of this podcast. We just come together every now and again to do this, and then the rest of the time we hate each other deeply.
Yeah. You just sit at home in your massive red leather chair, and stare at a picture of me hatefully.
It's true. The other day I took great pains to create a beautiful portrait of in your likeness, and then took to stabbing at it with a knife, tearing at the paper, carving away at your face, with my bare hands. It was very therapeutic.
Oh, I might do that at some point, just for the stress relief.
Well, exactly.
Obviously, of my enemies, not of myself.
Actually, Joe, it is a really random question on the topic of random instances. Whatever happened to these unboxing videos that we were going to do at one point? Has that all died to death?
I don't want to say no,
Okay.
but it has been a while.
It has been a while. How come we didn't do an unboxing video for something? I don't know what happened last.
Well, we did Blackstone Fortress.
We did, yeah, that was good. And you did a terrible one. Not that the Blackstone Fortress one was especially good either, but you did a terrible one for Speed Freaks as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was going to do one for Shadow Spear.
Yeah, and you were going to do one for Demon Thingy, the Pleasure and Pain thing, or whatever it was called.
But our aspirations for that was just too high. It involved me doing a weird... Like, the general idea for that video, for the people to know, was that Khorne and Slaanesh were going to have a flat share together. And both Khorne and Slaanesh were going to be played by me. There was going to be balloon boobs and everything.
It was the whole kind of props department being built around it. It was going to be epic.
Yeah, and then I think work sold out of copies or something, so I was like, oh, I don't get a copy. And it kind of fell to pieces like a biscuit in a bag.
Well, there you go. At some point, maybe we'll return to those, but really that's not relevant to anyone listening to this podcast now. They're probably just thinking, hang on a second here, this is a pointless diversion, something I'm not interested in at all. So.
If Phil was here, he'd do a weird coughing noise and then be like, should we do the news?
I think we probably should, yeah. But before we do that, Joe, we need to talk about the things that are occurring on the show today, so as people are aware. If they've made it this far, they're going to want to know what they're going to be subjected to for the remaining however long this is.
Oh, you make it sound so painful.
I mean, it depends, really. It has been a while now. Yeah. So... let's crack on, shall we? So what are we going to be talking about today? So first and foremost, it'll be the news, because we like to talk about current events. So that will include things about Chaos Knights, I suppose. They're doing the Commissar and or Ogryn thingy for Blackstone Fortress, which looks quite cool. There's a whole new series of Primaris models that are doing the leaks on the internet via the Primaris Lieutenant social media channels. And there's also rumours that they're going to increase the prices, which doesn't sound overly fun. So we'll talk about that in due course. Once that's been concluded, Joe is going to take to the stage and tell us all the different things that are going on with his Grand Tournament Heat 2 army. So we're going to have a good time listening to Joe's fantastic plans for Grand Tournament Heat 2 and what he's going to be doing there. And closing out the show, as always, well, not always, but quite often, we will be doing the end of the show quiz. Myself, Joe, and Phil have each won one end of the show quiz. Today, we'll tell who is the overall champion. And without wanting to spoil any of it, it's not nearly as straightforward as you imagine it should have been, which is so much fun, as I'm sure you can expect. So look forward to us all kind of confusedly rowing at the end about how that will actually be worked out. But bar that will be the content of our show. Joe, final thoughts before we get into the things?
When you're spray painting models outside, where does the hair come from? You know, like there's no hair on the models when you take them outside. For the moment you spray paint them, hair everywhere.
You know what that is for you, Joe? That is all the cat hair inside of your clothes shaking free in the wind.
No, I don't believe that for a second.
Your clothes are covered in cat hair.
Not all of them.
All of them, Joe. Every one of them.
I could go out there in my birthday suit.
But then that would be your hair, wouldn't it? Off of your naked flesh. You're covered in hair. I'm not
molting like some kind of dog.
No, I appreciate that, but you're a furry man.
I am, yeah. But anyway, to the news.
Get your ears ready, chaps, because it's time for the news!
So in the first of the news segments, we wanted to talk about the announcement of the impending release of Codex Chaos Knights. Are you excited for this release, Joe?
As someone who used to have Chaos Knights and no longer has Chaos Knights, it's quite exciting. I'm looking
Did you have Chaos Knights, Joe, or were they not Renegade Knights?
They were Renegade Knights, yeah. But then I had Renegade Knights before they got the new Index rules when they were a bit naff. I kind of missed out on good Renegade Knights. But the new Chaos Knights, look, the models are incredible. Gone will be the days of the obscure conversions that people do, where they just take a big blob of green stuff and put some eyeballs on it, to now being an incredibly amazing plastic kit. And I like how they've like double jointed the legs on them as well, so they've got more of like a loping walk about them. And I look forward. Hopefully they get lots of cool stratagems as well, because they're really missing out at the moment.
Well,
compared to the Knights.
Based on what I've read and what I've seen and what I've heard, it seems like they're really mirroring the Imperial Knights. So this is a dark reflection of what the Imperial Knights are. So rather than fighting for the honor of the Imperium or the chivalrous reasons that they would go to battle before, this is a bunch of chaos-tainted, warped, knights and or riders or whatever they're called, the people inside, Sir so-and-so and whatnot, who have become completely obsessed with their own self-promotion and or selfish endeavours. So it's quite an exciting change of pace, because obviously all the knightly regal houses that make up the Imperial Knight faction are being replaced by kind of their mirrored versions, and based on what we're hearing, there's a lot of really interesting rules and sort of parodies between this and what is Imperial Knights, but with a number of other interesting mechanics in effect. And I think it's really interesting as well, because they've even gone so far as to replicate the Freeblade rules. So I think they're called the Dreadblades. So if you want to have a single Chaos Knight that isn't of any individual faction or knightly household, I suppose, you can now take them as Dreadblades, which essentially means that you get to have all the Freeblade rules, but I don't know. It's going to be super interesting if they actually make the Freeblade rules better for Chaos Knights. What do you reckon?
The thing is that they can only make them better, because I think I've never seen anyone actually run a Freeblade Knight, and when you ask them why, they're like, oh, because they're terrible.
I think there is some builds of Freeblade that have a place. I think there's like a Knight Gallant build you can do where you make it so he always has to charge or something as his only negative, which is then offset by a number of quite decent perks or something. But I think mostly speaking, most of the Freeblade rules are pretty awful compared to their, normally knightly households, which is completely understandable. But again, it's going to be interesting. So they've kind of got a version of Chaos Knights that kind of fell at around the same time, or joined the legions of Horus during the Horus Heresy. So they got knights from way back when who kind of identify more with the legionnaires of the Horus Heresy, and then they've also got another version of Chaos Knights who side more with the Dark Mechanicus, which is not overly surprising. So essentially, House Imperialis and House Mechanicus Knights are now represented by sort of the Legionary Astartes, Heretical Astartes variant and the Dark Mechanicus variant. Which again, given the fact that there is yet another piece of lore talking about the Dark Mechanicus in the form of this new Chaos Knight book, it only seems reasonable to assume that Dark Mechanicus must not be far behind, surely.
We can only hope, because everyone I know would absolutely go crazy for a Dark Mechanicus army. And I think if it did come out, I would probably find myself in a position where I might have to start something. Because the Dark Mechanicus are really cool. They're in the books and the lore and stuff, they have a bit more freedom in what they can do. Hopefully there'll be a more combat-orientated force than a shooting force that the current Mechanica is.
I would imagine so. I would imagine Dark Mechanicus would favour more kind of combat mechanics. But then I think one of the other interesting things is, how combat kind of works. Because I kind of thought the same was going to be true with Chaos Knights. But I think one of the interesting things about Chaos Knights is that all of your existing Imperial Knights can still just be used as Chaos Knights. So you can still essentially take your Imperial Knight army and go, yeah, it's Chaos Knights now. And they're actually allowing that to become reality. And there's also a lot of kind of cross-compatibility between the kits. So you've already started to see people posting online of having the double-fisted knights, which are looking obviously pretty cool, but you're also seeing people with like double Gatling cannons and all sorts of other crazy builds that people are starting to put together on stuff, in the Warhammer community teams and other associated fortunate individuals who get early access to all this sort of stuff.
The double Gatling cannon was always a bit of a staple for me. I always thought if you were running Renegade Knights, you just took 3 double Gatling cannon knights, and because they had that cool stratagem where you basically get to re-roll all your to hits or all your to wounds or both. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I was like, well, why don't you just do that with 24 Gatling cannon shots?
I mean, it only seems reasonable, doesn't it? The sort of thing you want to do. But again, they're going to get access to really cool relics. They're going to get access to really good stratagems. Again, it's just another really decent buff for your Chaos army. So if you're out there and you're collecting loyally to the Chaos faction, this is a really great thing to add some really substantial firepower to hopefully the ever-increasing awesomeness that is the Chaos faction. So, yeah.
Have they mentioned anything about the Knights getting the demon keyword? Because that would be crazy.
So they alluded to, but have not stated. So essentially, I think the Dreadblade specifically, so the Freeblade variants, have devoted themselves or been possessed by Chaos demons or were affected by the warp. So I think there is a bit of fluff in there that could potentially mean that the demon blades could be affected by the demon keyword, and if that was the case, the dread blades could be affected by the demon keyword, and if that was the case, then you could already immediately be like, okay, cool, I get it, the dread blades are actually really good now because they're demon engines. And if that is the case, then they're going to obviously massively benefit from all those incredible rules that will amplify them. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it would be too powerful a synergy, but it definitely would be quite a powerful synergy if they started incorporating the Demon Engine keyword into Chaos Knights, but we'll see what happens, eh?
We can only hope.
Indeed. So on the topic of hope, I believe all hope is lost for those in the Blackstone Fortress once the return of the Traitor Command Box, or not the return, the arrival of the Traitor Command Box comes around. So this is a really exciting release for those who are also holding out for Traitor Guard. So we are going to be seeing the release of a chaotic Commissar with Power Fist and Bolt Pistol, and he will be accompanied into battle by a Chaos Ogryn, which is also a really pretty amazing thing to see. The Chaos Ogryn is demonstrating some mutations with a kind of creepy-looking Slaanesh claw, and is carrying a rather large, sharp object, which is always quite impressive. So, what's your opinion on these two, Joe? Are you excited about this one?
Oh, these look absolutely stunning models, and it means that King's Auction have already released some rules for 40k with them, which obviously hopefully alludes to Traitor Guard being released quite soon. I think they're a box that you could pick up now and paint and just leave on a shelf for the day that comes that you can use them. I haven't played Blackstone Fortress in a long time, but having new models for that game system's really cool, because I don't really feel like they've been supporting it massively. Like, they've got the Amble and stuff and the occasional White Dwarf, but I think like this might hopefully mean that people pick the game up again and give it a go.
No, definitely. And I think that's always an important thing for these games, though, right, is that they don't necessarily have a finite life cycle. You can support them in a very much more kind of sporadic fashion, I suppose, than you need to support the mainstay 40k hobby and so on and so forth. I think with these releases, it's really cool that they're doing them quite consistently, and I think, again, whatever it's going to bring to the game of Blackstone Fortress is going to be fantastic, but really the thing that's most exciting to me is what this represents for potential future releases within yet more Chaos factions, which would be
Uh,
quite cool.
And it means that like Chaos is like becoming this real powerhouse of an army now. Before the new Codex came out, Chaos were in this bit of a lull. People were still winning with them, but they had to make up some real interesting concoctions. Whereas now, with the new Renegade, the new Chaos Knights, and the potential Traitor Guard, it means that Chaos are really something that you're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, I think, again, they're just getting to a place where they're mirroring the effectiveness of their Imperial counterparts. And I think that's important, you know. It's never really been the case that we've had parity between the Chaos factions and the Imperium factions. So it does look like we are going to very quickly find ourselves in a situation where Chaos and Imperium are much, much more closely aligned than they've ever been or at least been for a very long time, which is super exciting. If I'm honest, I think it's going to be really great. I mean, obviously, it would be good to not necessarily find ourselves with yet more Chaos releases in the course of 2019. But obviously, we know as Imperium players, there will be the Sisters of Battle coming out later in the year. So we at least know that there's some other stuff on the horizon. But it would be good to see them take a relative break from releasing Chaos things after Codex Chaos Knights. But we'll see, right?
Yeah, we hope so. I think there are some like Xenos factions that kind of need some love as well, but on the horizon, because there's a couple armies and factions that still need like resin kits and stuff updated to plastic. So hopefully those will get sorted out before the year's out.
I'd really love to see I'd love to see them sort of taking more inspiration from the Horus Heresy novels and introducing some of the factions based on some of those concepts. Not necessarily having them as they were back then coming into the game now, but, you know, I really always like the descriptions of the armies made up of both humans and other Xenos races, and I think that could always be a really interesting thing to start exploring. So actually having another human faction that isn't Imperium but is linked to a overarching sort of other kind of empire or something. But again, that's going to be a long way off from happening. But who knows what the future holds when it comes to all that sort of stuff. But I think that's the sort of stuff I'd love to see. But I'd also love to see more kind of crazy Xenos races. I think it'd be really great if we just started to get things like the insect mad, what they called the something arachnids. What were they called? The mega arachnids.
The mega arachnids. They were brilliant because they were like half like metal, half like bioorganisms. So that'd be cool to see.
That would be wicked. But anyway, there you go. So that's what's going on with that. Additionally, and quite excitingly, we've also had the Primaris Lieutenant social media channels come to life of late. So the Primaris Lieutenant social media channels that occupy Twitter have come into existence and has already featured some fabulous new, exciting news for all those Primaris Space Marine collectors, players, in the form of admittedly a leak, but quite an exciting, quite tangible leak, because obviously it's come direct from Games Workshop themselves, where we see a lineup of spangly new Primaris Space Marine kits. Not least the Primaris Executioners and other kind of Phobos armoured units that we'll remember from Shadowspear, but there is also a new anti-grav vehicle, as well as a new chassis for a Dreadnought and what looks like a Reaver Lieutenant, which is quite interesting, or maybe even a Reaver Captain. It's difficult to tell. It's a very dramatically posed Reaver, is all I would say.
He's doing some serious vaulting going on there. He's like parkouring his way around the table by the looks of it.
Absolutely. I mean, he looks absolutely incredible. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got a real soft spot for the Primaris stuff. And I do actually also really appreciate and enjoy the fact that the good people of Games Workshop see fit to kind of poke fun at these situations where they need to, and they're obviously acutely aware of the fact that they've released a lot of lieutenants, to the point that they're obviously doing this social media channel called the Primaris Lieutenant. But again, I mean, we always knew after the release of Shadowspear that there was going to be an impending Primaris release, and I think this is looking rather promising. So, yeah, I mean, by the looks of things, that transport looks like some kind of Rhino type vehicle. I mean, it has similar kind of elements. So if it is a more kind of resistant Rhino with a very low amount of weapons, I think that's going to be super interesting to see and something that the Primaris desperately need. I mean, what's your feelings on that, Joe?
Oh yeah, I called it before, saying that like I expect we're going to see like a Rhino or Razorback S transport coming out, because they desperately need that help getting across the table, and like they need something to stop them being blown away turn one. I imagine it's going to be covered in their weird Gatling onslaught cannons or whatever they are. Because that's like the Primaris go-to gun at the moment.
They do love them.
Yeah, and then obviously you got that new. Is he going to be a Reaver captain, or do you reckon he's going to be like a multi-part Phobos one?
I really don't know. I mean, I think if it was a multi-part Phobos thing, that'd be pretty cool. But then Games Workshop aren't really in the habit of creating kind of character models that are, quote, multi-part or able to turn into different things. The olden days of having a bunch of different socket joints that you kind of put together into different kind of poses and things is sort of long behind us now. Everything seems to be much more almost single pose, I think. Like there is some amount of flexibility that you can get out of these multi-part kits, but nowhere near the same kind of flexibility as you had in older kits. Not to necessarily say that there was that much with that either, but it definitely feels with the Primaris range they're a little bit more restrictive in some regards. But again, we're talking about minor points of difference here, and potentially just nitpicking really, but yeah.
Yeah, we were talking as a group the other day, and I said that I'd really like to see like a Primaris command squad kind of box. So you just get 5 bodies and then just a whole bunch of bits that you can make an apothecary out of, an ancient, some kind of company champion. In this case, it'd probably be like a lieutenant, and the stuff to make a captain. Knowing GW, it'd probably be in like the 35-40 quid mark, but that would be totally worth it, because at the moment the only way to get the ancient is by buying Dark Imperium, and then like the apothecary you can literally only have in one pose, and then there's only one captain model at the moment apart from the limited edition one.
Yeah, officially there's one captain. I mean, admittedly, you could definitely very easily fashion a number of the Primaris Lieutenants into captains. I mean, that exclusive Primaris Lieutenant did at Warhammer Fest and other grand opening events or whatever they are. I mean, all you got to do is put a cape on him and he's a captain, right? I mean, he's got the Iron Halo, he's got the sword. It's not particularly difficult to see how that could be representing a captain. But at the same time, yeah, officially speaking, there is one. Well, there's 2 captains actually. There's the captain in Gravis armor and the captain with power sword and potentially power sword, but bolt rifle and sword.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of need a bit more customability, and I can't think of the proper word on this one. But like, look, you can only have a bolt rifle and a power sword, or a power sword and another gun,
or you could have no power sword,
You could
have pointy finger. Don't forget about pointy finger.
But it kind of loses like the fun aspect of characters to me. I always feel like Space Marine captains are supposed to be these total badasses that kind of like have loads of different functionality. So like back in, was it like 5th, 6th edition, if you had a Space Marine captain with a jump pack, then all your Assault Marines became troops. So if you had him on a bike, they all became, all your bikers became troops, stuff like that. I'd like to kind of see that come back again, because as it is at the moment, the only reason you put the Space Marine on the table is that so that the captain is that you just use a little aura ability, and then the Space Marines just waddle around in a big blob.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think that's a representation of where they're at with the range for the Primaris Marines at this time. I mean, again, who knows what this new series of releases will entirely contain. But, yeah, it's fair to say that there was definitely a bit more kind of flavour to it before. I also really liked what you were saying before about the Command Squad thing, because Command Squads don't necessarily feel like they had very much love, or they definitely don't have love anymore. I think, I mean, even when Games Workshop introduced 8th edition, I was like, what have they actually done to the Command Squads? Because they basically changed it so as they're not now a squad, it's one Ancient, and if you want it, one Apothecary, one Tech Marine, and then you can buy multiples of Veterans starting at like 2. And then it's like, oh, okay, so it's not actually one collective squad. It's a series of individual characters and some extra veterans that you can theoretically have in the same space to represent that command squad, but it doesn't actually exist in the traditional sense. And that was... I don't think that necessarily was a massive negative overall, but it's an interesting thing that they kind of stepped away from that world and, changed it up in the way that they did. Because I quite like command squads. I think, they're not very good in a practical gaming sense, but they're very thematic and they're very cool things to see to denote the seniority of your captain, to have him surrounded by his boys. It's always nice.
Yeah. And like Calgar's got his Vicatrix Guard, so I'd really like to see some kind of like honor guard that everyone can use, which would be quite nice.
Yeah, it was very odd with the Victrix Honor Guard that they didn't allow the other Space Marines to take advantage of it. They only have the Ultramarines keyword, which is super weird.
So yeah, you'd think that like other Space Marine captains would have some kind of bodyguard. So
without a doubt. I think that's one of the interesting elements of... Again, it all come together, mate. It all come together. But anyway, in terms of the releases they got here, as I say, they've got this new transport. They've clearly got the newer sculpts for the executioners, the snipers, the suppressors, and all those things that you will have remembered from Shadowspear. They've also shown off this new chassis for the Dreadnought. So this looks like a much lighter, more kind of tactical Dreadnought armor. Not Terminator armor, obviously, but yeah, it's much more of a kind of sleeker, more kind of assumedly fast-moving type of Dreadnought, which could be really interesting. Hopefully, they haven't made the mistake of putting heavy weapons on it, so as when it moves and shoots, it actually doesn't come under the influence of a -1. But we shall see, I suppose.
Yeah, they desperately need to fix that rule or change Onslaught cannons to Assault. Because, like, Space Marine vehicles, like the Primaris stuff, which is supposed to be this new cool technology that's supposed to be amazing and is changing warfare all over the galaxy, if it moves, can't shoot incredibly well.
Yeah, it's always a real shame for the Redemptor Dreadnought that it ended up not having any sort of ability. You can, if you're an Iron Hands player, for 1 CP, you can move, I think you could even advance a Dreadnought with no minus modifiers to his heavy weapons, but again, that's 1 CP for the privilege. I think, again, that's something that they need to address if eventually they revamp things. And maybe, just maybe, with the tease of this new series of Phobos Marine kits, they'll actually properly release a new update to the Space Marine Codex that actually... revamp some of those stratagems or readdresses the balance, but we'll see.
I hope so. I think it's only for the better.
Totally agree with you. And the last of the news items that we wanted to talk about was the supposed increased price of Warhammer 40,000, but also all Games Workshop products, specifically in America. So for those who don't know, and obviously I heavily stipulate at the start of this conversation, whatever you want to call it, that this is entirely a rumour at this point, but it seems like a rumour with a lot of credibility. There's been a lot of talk on the interwebs about Games Workshop potentially increasing the price of some kits by as much as $25 in the US. So they were talking about the Wraith Knight model, and I think one of the other more obscure kind of Lord of War large models going up by as much as $25. I mean, did you hear this, Joe?
Yeah, I heard about this. It just seems a little bit a little bit mad. I was like, it's not really explainable. I know, like it's inevitable. Things will always go up in price as cost of shipping increases and like cost of materials, man hours, stuff like that. But it doesn't make any sense on a model that's probably been... How long has the Wraith Knight been out for now?
4 years.
4 years. So it's probably paid for itself by now. So the money that they're making on that thing, surely, apart from the cost of raw materials and shipping, like, that's just profit now.
You would sincerely hope so, especially if you consider the amount of those things people were buying in 9th edition, 7th edition. I think there was, most people had 3 of them at least. I mean, Wraith Knight spam was crazy popular towards the end of 7th edition, and rightly so, because it is incredibly powerful. I think it's interesting, though, because, I mean, look, I think, at the end of the day, I don't want to necessarily throw shade at Games Workshop for feeling the necessity for increasing their prices. I'm sure they've evaluated and looked at it. I think what's interesting to me is some of, like, the business practices associated with that, because I think, this kind of feels like a very kind of, specific kind of strategy to potentially drive sales, to kind of... bolster some of their financial reporting and performance. I think when you look at the Apocalypse release and the kind of incredible deals they're doing around there, and then you also look at the potential of this price hike coming into effect, these kind of things only really kind of get communicated or put out into the wild when you want to kind of stimulate your sales. I think there was a really great thing that I read about World of Tanks once upon a time, and I can't for certain say that this is true because I don't actually play World of Tanks, but it's just something I read. There was an acknowledgement by the developers of World of Tanks that there was this one tank that was super OP in game, so overpowered in the game. But the developers of the game decided that they didn't want to balance the tank. They just wanted to make it more expensive. However, the way that they promoted the fact they were going to make it more expensive was that they laid down a line in the sand, and they basically came out and said, "Hello everyone, we are aware that this tank is far too overpowered. Seriously, it's like the most overpowered thing in our game. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase the price it costs you to buy it, but we're not going to do it for until this date," which was about like 10 days after the announce. And what that meant is that tank became the most popular item that they had for sale, because one, people were worried that they were going to have to pay more for it in the future, and obviously they'd just been told that it's so good that they had to increase the price. Now, again, this is just one of those stories that you hear, and again, I can't entirely verify that was the situation, but I could easily see something like that for GW, where they're like, "Oh, we kind of want to get some more sales in. Let's do a price hike so as we can get people panic buying before." Beforehand, because they always do that, right? Like every time they do a price increase, they tell you about a week or 2 weeks beforehand, and I bet they see a spike in sales at the back of that, because there'll be so many people in the middle of projects going, "Oh, I may as well just buy now because save money." You've
got to try and imagine how many start collecting boxes they sold in the 2-3 weeks between when they announced that their price was going up to the actual price increase. They literally they must have just sold out in seconds on stuff, because people were just like, "Oh, I need to save the money on how much money I'm saving." It's crazy.
I mean, again, this is all just, me throwing out a bunch of mad theories. And again, everything that we're reporting on here is not factual in any way, shape, or form. But at the same point, it's just interesting. I mean, one thing I was really curious as well, Joe, how expensive, right? And how many years have you been into this hobby?
Since I was about, I don't know, 7, 8. So
Blimey,
like 20.
You were a real early starter on that one.
Like 22, 23 years or something like that.
Christ. Well, here's the thing, right, Joe? Right. So, bearing that in mind, and bearing in mind how much of a fan you are to the extent that we come on here and we talk about it on a regular basis and so on and so forth, and given the fact that you're not exactly the most affluent man to have ever walked the planet at this moment in time, I mean, not to kind of, paint you into a corner there, mate, but it's, you're a pretty average earner, you would say. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go down that road.
There you go. That's a fair assessment of the situation.
Yeah.
How expensive would a box of Space Marines need to be for you to not buy them?
Oh. I don't know. Well, I'm assuming we're talking about Primaris Marines because no one ever buys normal.
Oh yeah,
Space
so
Marines.
if we were to go on to the Games Workshop website right now, I believe a squad of Primaris Space Marines comes in at something in the ballpark of like £30. Let me just double check. Crikey, £35 for 10 Space Marines. So that is £3.50 a model at this moment in time.
That's like right on the edge there, I'd say.
So
because
would you not buy it? Would you buy it for £40?
no.
Really? That would just £5 more would break you.
Yeah, because you've got to think about you've got to think about what these Space Marines do on the table. Are they even worth £40? Are there cheaper alternatives to these models? And it's like, if that goes up to 40 quid, then I'll just have an army of intercessors out of Dark Imperium, because you can pick up the Dark Imperium half for like 40 quid. And that gives you 10 intercessors, 5 Hellblasters, a captain, a lieutenant, a ancient, and 3 jump packy dudes, inceptors, whatever they're called. So for the same price through other mediums, you can get like 5 times better kind of thing.
So would you, based on that same premise then, would you pay £35 for Primaris Intercessors?
No, I don't. No.
So what you're actually saying is they've already priced you out.
I think if I was desperate in a clinch and I was like, oh, I need these models now, I don't want to have to go through eBay or wait for someone to sell them on social media kind of thing. I'd just be like, yeah, I'll pay the 35 quid and it'll be done. But that would have to be a serious internal debate.
I wonder, with the exception of like mothers who drop their kids off in Games Workshop stores because they don't want to have to pay for childcare, and so on and so forth. Not that that's bad in any way. Totally take advantage of the situation. I know I would. But at the same point in time, like, barring the people that are kind of not conned but not informed of the reseller market, or not the reseller but more the kind of independent selling market. Do you think anyone actually buys this box? I mean, this is one of those things that's really interesting to me as well, because do you think that many people have ever spent 35 quid on a box of 10 intercessors?
I can't imagine they would have, because like the average resale price for 5 intercessors on like eBay, like built or unbuilt, regardless to whether it's the push fit ones from Dark Imperium, the easy build ones, or the multi-parts. Like, they only sell for about a tenner for 5.
Really?
Yeah. At best. And that's like if it's been built nicely, all cleaned up, decent poses, nothing's on backwards, there's no real damage, it looks clean and nice. Like that, where you get a tenner, or if it's been painted really, really well. Anything less than that, you're looking at like 7 or 8 quid for 5.
Wow.
So the moment you've bought that box for 35 quid and you've walked out the store, you have already lost 15 quid.
Yeah, totally. It's really interesting. I suppose that comes down to, as well, the abundance of kind of cheaper alternatives that they offer you, right? Because, I mean, there's the Space Marine, battalion that's about to come along, and that battalion, to the best of my understanding, features 3 units of intercessors, right?
Yeah, so in that box set, you get, 30 intercessors and a captain.
Yeah, and a Redemptor Dreadnought.
And a Redemptor Dreadnought. So the saving on that box set is madness.
Well, I mean, so it's £105 just for the Intercessor Marines. Then the captain, God, is the captain running you like £25?
He's 20 quid on his own.
Is he 20 quid? I thought he was 25. And then the Redemptor Dreadnought, what, 40 something?
It's 35, 40 quid.
God, you're doing all right out of that, aren't you? But this is the thing, right? I mean, like, so taking that into consideration, you know, you're massively devaluing that proposition overall anyway in terms of the baseline, or you're essentially establishing that this is, you know, a saving overall. But there's going to be such an abundance of these kits out in the wild. Anyway, we've kind of drifted off the topic. My kind of feeling is that, I mean, obviously a price hike is only an inevitability eventually, right? They can't keep things being the same price forever. That's just the nature of the beast. Yeah. I sympathise with everyone who is invested in and plays this hobby outside of the UK, because I think it is an incredibly expensive hobby in the UK, and doubly so in the US and Australia. I mean, the prices the Australians pay is...
I weep for Australians. Jesus. We had a couple from Australia came into our store the other day and dropped about 400 quid on models, because they were like, this is so cheap. Like, why doesn't everyone in this country play this game? It's like, because we're all poor for the start, but...
Well, I don't mean... Wow.
Well, no, we're not all poor. That's a general... Maybe there's people out there literally rolling in... I know for a fact there's people rolling in sealed boxes in their living room. But it's... Yeah, it's madness. And they came in and lit their eyes up. They're like, oh my God. Yeah. Like, it's like, Miners Calgar's only like 30 quid. And I was like, well, how much do you have to pay? And he's like, well, you look at the equivalent of like 70 quid in Australia. And I was like... Dear God.
Yeah, it's like 100 Aussie dollars or something utterly bonkers for...
Not only do you have to live in fear of a spider crawling all over your bum when you sit on the toilet, you have to give up like internal organs to buy Warhammer models.
So yeah, to put it in context, the same Space Marine Battalion detachment that sells for 100 GBP pounds... you can buy for 280 Australian dollars.
Jesus.
And what's the Australian dollar? Australian dollar. So, hang on. No, that's not right. Dollar. So, so if I was to put in 280, crikey, so that's the equivalent of £160.
Jesus.
So you're nearly you're not paying. You're paying half on top. Well, half plus a little on top.
Yeah.
Crikey.
That's awful.
Well, you know, it's just... But the thing is, right, at the end of the day, it's a hobby, right? I always come back to this same thing. And, you know, ultimately... The fact that it is a hobby is an exploitation in and of itself, because they've essentially transcended your usual kind of buying habits, and you've started to associate a weird emotional connection to this thing, because once you're invested the way you and I are, Joe, you start to completely separate yourself from your rational approach to how you deal with this stuff. You just start thinking about it in a purely kind of emotional kind of invested sense. You know, I have a sense of obligation to this hobby. When I buy stuff in it, I feel like I need to support it because I love it and I want it to continue and thrive. So I have a lot of emotion attached to my purchasing habits within Games Workshop and Warhammer 40,000, and that's because I'm well past the point of just being, you know,
occasional.
I'm so into it. It's crazy, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, but this thing, honestly, for me, I mean, look, at the end of the day, if it ever gets to a point where they're charging like £60 for 10 Space Marines, I might get to the point where I'm like, I think this hobby's pricing me out. But I think if they keep a squad of 10 Space Marines sub 50, I think I'll still be okay with it. Only because of the fact that I just accept it as what it is. It's I don't need this stuff. I do need it. Oh God, I need it so much. But I don't actually need this stuff in my life. I just choose to invest my time and energy in it. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's my hobby. And that's, you know, so for me, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it could never get expensive enough that I wouldn't be interested, but it definitely would have to go up a fair old chunk before I started going, no.
You think like all hobbies are expensive. For instance, if we played golf, the amount of money that golfers invest in not just golf clubs and golf bags and the little socks that go on the end of the clubs, but you've got to think like the amount of money they spend on the clothes they wear when they play golf, and then.
Do you not spend a lot of money on the clothes you wear when you play 40k?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I don't spend that much money on clothes in general.
Fair enough. Well, you're going through the burn right now, aren't you? You're getting to a point where you won't even be able to wear your clothes. This is a dangerous game you're playing.
And I'm inheriting clothes off of other people. That's the easiest way of doing it. But anyway, you got to think like the amount of money that people spend on memberships to golf clubs, like golf clubs a golf club. You go to your place and then you got to pay like I don't know, is it a pitch fee, a fairway fee kind of thing, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it's a right old racket, isn't it? It's like, it's.
Heaven forbid you own a horse. Jesus Christ, those are like the most expensive things ever. Like, I would rather crash 100 cars a year than own a horse.
Crash 100 cars a year and suffer no physical damage.
Yeah, than own a horse. Because
or would you be happy to accept whatever potential, horrificness would occur?
It'd probably be cheaper.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly here in the UK, right? Because you've got the benefits of free healthcare.
Yeah, and then the government will just give you money.
Exactly, that's a winner. You might, find yourself in a position where you're making more money.
Yeah. You got to think, like, people who own a horse spend up to and above, like, £300, £400 a month on just keeping a horse somewhere. Just to keep it in a building or in a field, and then you got to think like that might occasionally come with like hay and straw and water if you're lucky. And
I love the in-depth description of horse ownership that you've decided to go into, Joe. Do you feel like anyone out there is interested in your estimated, value of horse ownership?
If you're just saying there's more expensive hobbies out there.
That was enough. That's pretty much. Yeah. We didn't need to know about the nuances of horse ownership.
I grew up on Exmoor. Like everyone owns a horse there.
Did you own a horse, Joe?
I did, yes.
Oh, did you? And you were spending $400 a month on keeping it in a house?
Of course not. My mother was, but you've got to think because she had all the horses. It was just forced on me. I said I don't want a horse because they're stupid.
What was your horse's name, Joe?
His name was Brian.
Why do I feel like you just made that up on the spot, that you never really owned a horse?
No, I had a horse.
And it was called Brian, was it?
Brian, yeah.
Brian the horse. What colour was Brian the horse?
He was brown.
Brown Brian the horse.
Yeah, we had another one called Bear.
You had Bear. What colour was Bear?
Bear was grey or white.
Grey Bear and Brown Brian.
Full name, Bear Bottom.
Bear Bottom Brian?
Yeah. No, Bear Bottom. But anyway.
Oh, wait, did he have like a weird patch on his bum?
Yeah. And so I just had some emotional venting, I feel. I think that's the road that we've gone down now.
I think so, mate. I think so. Maybe we need to move on to whatever comes next. I think now we're talking about what horses you owned as a child. I mean, I love the fact that we kicked this off by trying to make out that you were some kind of normal, impoverished individual, and now you're talking about your, collection of horses that you owned.
Well, I'm poor now. I flew the coop.
Well, because you had all those horses in the early years, you fool.
Yeah. I just want a quad bike. If that thing gets ill, I don't have to spend like £1,000 in vet bills.
It's true. You just have to buy a new quad bike, I guess, which is probably thousands of pounds.
Yeah, not that quad bikes get ill because it's a machine.
Well, they get something resembling ill. Look, we've really gone too far with this. This needs to stop now.
This is what happens when Phil, you've done this. You've left us unsupervised. We haven't spoken about obscure 90s cartoons or wrestling, but this is worse.
This is way worse. We've talked about Brown Brian. This has all gone terribly wrong. So in closing, price hike, if it happens, well, fair enough. It is what it is. But hopefully it will not come anytime soon. And if it does, I'll just continue to buy like I normally do. And then if at the end of it all I go, ooh, that was probably a bit more than I should have spent, then fair enough. I'm an idiot. But at the end of the day, I love this hobby and I'll keep supporting it. And I'm sure Games Workshop are banking on that because it's more to me than just small toy soldiers, damn it. It's my life. It's my existence. It's the basis by which I've made my friendships. Oh God, it's everything to me.
I'm gonna interrupt you on this one.
Okay.
Also, reading some of like the comments that you get on social media about price hikes always make me laugh because you get the proper trolls come out as well. And back in the day, a squad of Space Marines was £9 and Scouts were £5. And my captain only cost me £3 in a blister pack. And it drives me a little bit mad because those models were crap.
That's a fair comment right there. I mean, everything used to be cheaper once upon a time, but it's a different world, you see. Business and greed has taken control of everyone, And Games Workshop is not immune. They've got a lot of people that need to get paid. And they need to be paid, with the money generated from selling £35 boxes of Space Marines. That's just how it goes.
Yes, Goodwin's got them held at knife point, saying, "Give me more money, or I'm not drawing another Space Marine."
That's it.
And I'm like, "Oh God, he's got us, boys."
Exactly. Maybe that's what he was. What went wrong with him when he had created not the interceptors, the suppressors. That was them. The weird autocannon ones that he did recently. Which actually, when you see the models for real, are absolutely fantastic. It's just the rules for them are so weird. But anyway, we digress massively. That has been the news. We've hoped you'd enjoyed it. We're now going to move on to the next segment, and Joe is going to treat us with a beautiful transitional noise. Please, Joe. Hello, everyone. And in this part of the podcast, we're now going to be talking to Joe about his army list ideas, plans, thoughts, and feelings towards his incredible Warhammer 40,000 Grand Tournament Heat 2 army list. Isn't that right, Joe?
That is correct, Armando.
Wonderful stuff. And joining us is not just Joe, but also Rich. Hello, Rich.
Hello. I'm excited to be on the main roster for once.
Exactly. We've allowed you in the big house.
Yeah, not just relegated to the end of the show.
Well, exactly. Well, we need your insight, Rich, because at some point we're going to talk to you about whatever you're taking to GT Heat 2. So, we want to kind of get you involved. Be part of the conversation.
I'll be umming and ahhing on that until the night before the tournament.
Was that what you did at the last GT Heat? You turned up and were
Probably.
writing the list literally moments before you walked in.
I think that's a fair
You
assumption.
you were writing your list in McDonald's the morning of the event, and then when we were in Bugman's for the list submission, you were still trying to choose between two lists.
It is true. I did write it I rewrote it at breakfast, and then rewrote it again just before signing it, like half an hour later before we went in, and it was well worth it to come in like 40th place or something.
It was really harsh, man, because given the fact you hadn't played much 8th edition at that point, I thought you had a really good showing, given the fact that you hadn't had that much time with the game system up to that point, because that was back when you were living in the US and not getting too much game time in. I think you'll do well next time around, Rich. I think you might, you've got what it takes, man. You'll get it done, I believe.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I've had some good coaching, and I've had some good coaching. I've played against a lot of armies. Most of them Joe's, not all played by Joe.
Couldn't possibly know what you're talking about.
We're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about Joe's army.
Well, indeed. But also, Phil's here as well. Hello, Phil.
Hello.
There we go. So, Joe, surprise us all by telling us what will you be taking to Grand Tournament Heat 2?
So, for Grand Tournament Heat 2, I'm going to be taking Eldari. Boom! Explosion.
Mixed Eldari, Craftworld Eldari, Drakari Eldari, Harlequins Eldari, Corsairs Eldari.
It's Drakari Eldari.
Drakari Eldari.
And Harlequin Eldari.
Ooh, an interesting mixture.
Will you have
And
6
then-
flyers?
No.
Okay.
No.
Do
3.
you have any free flyers?
Okay.
3. To be cute, you know?
Mm.
Because basically, I failed at the last 2 attempts of doing a GT heat. And I
No, you
thought...
didn't. You turned up and played. What are you on about?
Yeah, I turned up and played, but I didn't qualify at either one.
That's how you're gauging failure.
Yes. So, this time round, I'm like, I'm not doing... I just want to win. I'm going to bring a win, a list that... Okay, not that we'll win, but will get me through the top few. That's my goal. That's my plan.
Amazing.
If I can get into the final, that will be an achievement, which I will be happy with.
Mm. Does anyone remember what the qualifying criteria for the final is now? Is it top 35, top 40, or top 30? I can't remember.
I believe it's 35.
Huh? They've extended it to 35, have they? There you go. Increase the odds, Joe.
Yeah, so that's only good for me.
Mm.
And previously I took Knights and Admech to the last one with Saint Celestine in it for some buns. But I can't remember what I took to the one before that.
I feel like you took... I can't even remember now, Joe. You're absolutely right. I've forgotten what it could have been. Was it Iron Warriors? You were rocking like Iron Warriors.
Oh, it was Iron Warriors. Iron Warriors with a Renegade Knight. Which hilariously would probably be quite a good list in the current meta, as it were.
Well, why didn't you just drop everything and do that now?
Nah. I've got too far in building and painting of this army. So I've basically gone. Dark Elder are my favourite Warhammer army in general, so they will be my core.
Mm-hmm.
They are an incredibly strong army on their own. But I thought I'm going to chuck in some stuff just to fill some gaps to make it a bit more winnable, as it were. But I wasn't going to go down the Craft World route, just to be a little bit different, you know.
So
but
what
still
does
powerful nonetheless?
So what does your army list consist of, Joe? Do you want to talk us through it?
Yes, I'm going to go for it now. So it starts off with a battalion of Drukhari. It is the Cabal of the Black Heart, because Vect, basically.
Agents of Vect, you mean?
Yeah, because Agents of Vect.
That popular stratagem that allows you to stuff other people's stratagems for 4 CPs and the roll of a 2+.
Yeah, it's pretty good, and it's pretty game changing. The thing, I'm doing a lot of playtesting with this army. And the struggle with Agents of Vect is knowing when to play it, when that most crucial moment is. It's trying to foresee if this guy or girl gets off this stratagem, will that essentially lose me the game? So it's things like Grot Shield for looters, kind of thing, or Machine Spirit Resurgent for a knight to get that crucial knight off the table, stuff like that. Or even something simple like a Fire and Fade on another Eldar army. Because Fire and Fade doesn't just get your units hidden behind cover, it also just bumps that unit along 7 inches to grab them a useful objective. So yeah, that's what it's there for, and hopefully it will do me well. I've got, so my HQ choices are 2 Archons. One is the standard Archon with the Labyrinthine Cunning Warlord trait, and the Writ of the Living Muse relics. Basically, one gives him a reroll 1s to wound bubble, so the units around him get reroll hit and reroll wound rolls of 1, and the other one gives me command points back on a 6, whether my opponent or myself spend a stratagem. I roll X amount of dice equal to the cost of the stratagem, and on a 6 I get a command point back. So that's actually super powerful. I've got 4 squads of Cavalite Warriors. 3 squads have got 5 guys in. One squad's got 7 because I've got spare points left over, and I wanted to make it an exact 1750.
Mm-hmm.
3 Ravagers with disintegrator cannons, because those guns get work done, and they just hang around with the Archon, getting all the rerolls. And you got to think each one's putting out 9 shots at strength 5 minus 3, flat 2 damage. So that's going to kill things mainly that I'm thinking about are Wind Rider jet bikes and Primaris Marines.
And, other kind of 2 wound, relatively mid-toughness stuff as well. I mean, that's not too shabby against Centurions. Admittedly, they're 3 wounds, but they're not too bad against Centurions or Aggressors or, I don't know, stealth suits, battle suits in the general sense. There's options, right?
But they also give units like Custodes a level of concern, and they tend to keep their head out of danger. And then I've got 3 Venoms to go in that detachment. So obviously 3 units of Cavalite Warriors to 3 Venoms, and then 1 unit of Cavalite Warriors then sits in my back line holding an objective, or I have and then the 3rd unit, they either sit on the back line or they hide behind cover, and then they jump out and grab an objective at the end of the game. The usefulness.
So is that the unit of 7 that holds back, is it?
Yeah, the unit of 7.
Have these units got blasters, by the way, these warrior units?
No, because the way my list has been, the stuff I've taken out and then added in, I've had to remove the blasters from the units, because I originally had 6 units of Cavalite Warriors with 6 blasters. But I then added 3 Razorwing jet fighters, so I dropped 2 units of guys and 2 Venoms and all the blasters, and I kind of thought 3 Razorwings is better than those blasters, because the Razorwings will last longer on the table, and the way they move gets them in better opportunities for taking stuff out.
Because they're called disintegrator cannons, right? The Ravagers have, right?
Yeah, the disintegrate. So the Ravagers have got disintegrator cannons. They've got 3 each.
Yeah, as does the Razor Wings as well, right?
So the Razor Wings are packing 2 each as well, and the Razor Wings have got missiles, which you can choose what variant you shoot every turn. So one's like strength 6 one's strength 6, no negative modifier, 2 damage. One's like strength 7 -1, but you get to reroll to wound, but it's 1 damage. And then there's one which is 3d3 shots. Yeah. Which wounds everything on 2s.
Well, infantry on 2s.
It wounds all infantry on 2s.
Yeah.
Which is pretty tasty.
Yeah, it's really good, man. I've used 3 Razor Wings myself in previous tournaments, and I always find them really, really useful. Although, to be honest with you, I found them really useful when they still benefited from the craft wheel powers of Jink and Doom, because the combination of being able to reduce a save by 1 combined with re-rolling wounds massively compensated the overall issue of the disintegrator, which is the fact that it's strength 5 minus 3/2 damage, because strength 5 is just it just has very little functionality when it comes to dealing with, or effectively dealing with vehicles, especially vehicles like Imperial Knights, who are still going to have their 4-up invuln saves or 5-up or 4-up invuln saves. And the
way I look at it is that so you got the blasters I've dropped. You have 3 blasters, the ones I've dropped, basically, shooting at the knight. So you'll average at 2 hits, and then you're wounding on 4s. So you only get 1 wound at most, and if they don't save that, you average at 3-4 wounds on a knight. Whereas with the 3 Razor Wings, you've got 4 shots each, so that's 12 shots hitting on 3s. So you're looking at 7, maybe 8 hits, and then you're wounding on 5s instead of 4s. So you're looking at maybe 3-4 wounds. And then on Knight, and then if he saves 1, he takes 2, or he takes 4 damage. So the amount of damage on the Knight is the same. But then if I come up against an opponent that doesn't have any Knights and is very infantry heavy, those disintegrator cannons will go a long way against those compared to a single shot blaster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you look at things like your Genestealer Cult armies and your Orc armies, I think it's definitely the preferable weapon. It's just those things because, we're still seeing a lot of Imperial Knights in certainly the Warhammer World meta. When I watched all the games, there was still a heavy presence for Imperial Knights in the top tables at the end. They're always a very gatekeeper-y style army. It's rare that you see the Imperial Knight players win, but they're always up there. Because as an army list, it definitely does well against people who have nothing prepared to kind of counter it, I suppose. So I suppose, even though I agree with you that the blasters aren't super anti-tank, yeah. But what's in the rest of the list, Joe, before I start procrastinating about these things?
So the rest of the list has a outright detachment of Harlequins. And I've chosen the mask form, the Frozen Stars.
Sorry, Joe, as well, to cut you off before you go into the Harlequin thing, the Flyers are an air wing detachment, right?
Yeah, they're an air wing detachment, so that gets me an extra CP.
And are they Blackheart, or are they something else?
They're still Blackheart because they benefit from the 6-up feel no pain. So everything in the Blackheart detachments has a 6-up feel no pain as well. Which isn't game changing, but it's super useful at keeping yourself alive for that little bit longer. As I've found from when playing in tournament, it's not about who can put the most amount of damage out. It's about who can last 4 or 5 turns. If you can survive longer, it's easy because you could put out loads and loads of damage and loads of shots. If you can't take damage back, which historically has been issues that my armies have had, then you're blown off the table and the game ends like turn 3 and lost. Whereas with the Dark Eldar and the Harlequins, everything in the army is super fast, but everything in the army is also like -1 to hit, -2 to hit, which causes trouble for other armies. And then if you've got that additional 6-up feel no pain on top, then you've got that little bit extra staying power, basically.
Yeah, I definitely found that when I was running the Wind Rider jet bikes. The only times that I ever lost games or was under pressure with them is when people kind of applied very small amounts of, firepower against them and were able to close the gap. And I found that the Wind Riders died and do die super quickly. So I've always had to try and play around that weakness. And I've gotten quite good. And I think in the old pre-FAQ version of the rules, the combination of the Flyers being able to block things and control space was a huge part of the scatterbikes being still very, very useful. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you, man. Survivability is everything in this version of the tournament rules world.
Oh god, yeah, and I think
as a filthy knight player, and a mass opponent of House Tyrannus, I equally see the value of the 6+++.
It just keeps you about for that little bit longer, which is always.
And it's really good on vehicles because you have so many more wounds. So many more opportunities to get that extra wound. Not to lose it.
Yeah. So if someone's shooting, for instance, like scatter bikes at you, or they're going to put loads and loads of damage on you, but it's all single wound damage. So say 6% of the scatter bites shoot at a venom, for instance, they're -1s that are hitting on 4s, and then you go, cool, like hitting on fast reflexes, now you're hitting on 5s, then their damage output is already massively reduced. Yeah, they are wounding you on 3s, but then you've got a 4-up save, and then you've got the 6-up feel no pain. So there's lots of rolls involved, but you're staying around, which is quite nice. Like you'll be left on like one wound, but your opponent's intention was to kill you, removing it from the table, which could potentially be scoring an objective next turn. So,
does the 6-up Feel No Pain granted, well, it shouldn't be called Feel No Pain, but whatever the rule is called, Power from Pain, that gives you, ignores wounds on 6s, does it specifically state that it also can ignore mortal wounds, or is it just normal wounds?
I will double check that. I'm pretty sure it's been...
I'm pretty sure it's mortal wounds as well, but I just thought I'd throw that in there in case there was a question.
Because the way it works is that vehicles in general don't get power from pain.
But they do get that because of Blackheart, right?
But Blackheart, they do get it. Hang on.
But they don't become fearless, and they don't reroll charges, and they don't do any of the other stuff, right?
Yeah. So it just says, inured to suffering, roll a d6 each time a model with this bonus loses a wound. On a 6, the unit does not lose that wound.
Okay. Fair enough.
So it's against everything. Everything.
All the things.
Yeah. So that's a super good one. And then the Harlequin's attachment, which is an outrider detachment, which gets me an extra CP. I'm running a Shadow Seer. She's got the Fog of Dreams and the Veil of Tears psychic powers. So one of those, you choose an enemy unit. They become -1 to shooting, and the other one is you pick a friendly unit, and then they become -1 to be shot at.
Nice.
Which is super helpful, especially against units like Guard or Tau.
Is the Shadow Seer cast 2, deny 1, or is it cast 2, deny 2?
She's cast 2, deny 1.
Okay.
And yeah, I chose the Frozen Stars as my mask form, and that is if a unit with this form charges in the charge phase, add 1 to their attack's characteristic until the end of the ensuing fight phase. And that's important for my next unit, which is the Solitaire, who is an absolute monster in this because obviously he's got a 12-inch movement. He can blitz, which gives him 10 attacks. So he's got 11 attacks when he does the charge. And then I gave him, because it's all based around the relic of the suit of, is it the suit of hidden knives? Knives. The suit of hidden knives. The special rule for that is roll a d6 each time a hit roll of 1 is made for an enemy model targeting the wearer in the fight phase. On a 2+, that model's unit suffers a mortal wound after the unit has resolved all of its attacks. So, for instance, if you run this guy into a unit of orcs and you've put the Fog of Dreams and Veil of Tears onto them, so that -1 then becomes -3 to hit, which means that they're only hitting you on 6s.
So you got -3? Are you doing lightning fast reflexes as well?
And then you do lightning fast reflexes on them as well, so it becomes -3. So that means that they're only hitting you on 6s in combat, but it also means for every 1, 2, and 3 that they roll, I roll those dice, and on 2+, that unit of orcs takes mortal wounds. And then that'll just drop half of the unit, kind of thing. Potentially even more if they have a bad roll.
Well, yeah, if by some bizarre turn of events, all 30 orc boys in that unit attack the one small little guy, I mean, that's never going to happen, right? Because
it's one guy on a 32 mil base.
Oh, is he on a 32 mil base now, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I thought all Harlequins still stayed on the old 28s, but I guess they've probably changed that since.
32 mil base, well, it might be 25.
Or is it 25? Whatever it is.
It's 25. That means he's going to get 5-6 people around him within the 1 inch. And then you're looking at 10 to 12 people within 1 inch range of those guys.
Oh yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure it'll go really, really well. I'm just curious on that side of things. But I mean, that's devastating, right? I mean,
So if you've got, you mean you've got 14 orcs attacking with 4 attacks each, and for every 1, 2, and 3 that they roll to hit you, could potentially be doing a mortal wound back to that unit. It is devastating. And obviously, this is after you've just put 11 attacks into them with the Solitaire, and he's no slouch either. I'm just going to find his page quickly.
oh, he's beastly, isn't he?
Yeah, he's strength and toughness 5 with 8 attacks as standard, but if he blitzes, he's got 10 attacks. Oh, in this case, it'd be 9 attacks or 11 attacks.
He's not toughness 5, is he? I thought he was toughness 3.
He's toughness 3, wounds 5.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I was going to say, that's a hell of an elf.
Yeah, he's got a 3 up in
Even the Phoenix Lords are only toughness 4. I was like, flipping heck, toughness 4.
He's really hard to kill. I came up against one of them. Eventually, the only way I was able to kill it was I took him down with my Gallant when it blew up.
That'll do it.
He's mortal wounds. He's got. Does he have any kind of save against mortal wounds?
So he's got a 3 up Invuln. He's got no save against mortal wounds.
I was going to say no is the answer.
No. He can advance and charge in the same turn, and he can fall back and still shoot and charge in the same turn.
Based on that as well, though, Joe, do you not think that it's worth doing the psychic power where you... Or do they still have that psychic power where they can move twice?
They can move twice, yes, but if he moves twice, you can't blitz.
Oh, can you not blitz and move twice?
No.
Still, though, I mean, by the sounds of things, most of what you want to get done is with these mortal wounds, right?
Yeah, but like with the Harlequin's Caress, he's like main close combat weapon. Makes him strength 5 -2 1 damage. So he's absolutely going to blitz through most units, hitting them on 2s, wounding on 3s.
So he's strength 5, you say, yeah?
Strength with that.
So strength 6 was that?
So he's strength 3, and then he gets +2.
So strength 5.
Strength 5, yeah. So he's going to be hitting on 2s, wounding most things on 3s. And then Harlequins have got some great stratagems. One of them is it's 1 CP, and you can ignore Overwatch when you charge.
Nice. Can he fight twice as well?
There is a stratagem. There's a reason why I chose. The other one was the Frozen Stars stratagem. Which I've just lost because it's a Frozen Stars stratagem, which is 2 CP. Allows them to add +1 to their wound rolls.
Okay.
For 2 CP.
So he's wounding most things on 2s now.
He's wounding most things on 2s. There wasn't. It's a weird thing because they've got all the stratagems in the book that allow them to attack twice, or if they die, they get to attack again, stuff like that. But they're all assigned to each of the different. They're called masks, kind of thing. So you can't have all of them, which is slightly annoying. There is another great one where if he's taken a wound in that turn, you add +1 to his strength and his attack's characteristic, which is pretty nice, which can make him strength 6, stuff like that.
So, based on what you're saying here, right?
Yeah.
Now, again, notwithstanding the whole stipulation for Warhammer World events going forwards where they're essentially making bottom floor of ruins block line of sight, but let's assume he's in the open and he's charging into something. So to do all this stuff you're talking about, you've passed 2 psychic tests, both on the Solitaire and the unit the Solitaire is charging into.
Yeah.
You've then spent 1 CP not to be overwatched. You've then spent 2 CPs to be winning on 2s, and then you spent another 2 CPs on getting the additional -1. So you've spent 5 command points Obviously, notwithstanding the fact that you'll probably get one of those command points back off the 5 rolls. So you've spent 4 command points, let's be generous, to get him to run in and do that one kind of cool... I mean, he seems like a massive command point sponge, mate. As well as, obviously, the combinations of psychic powers.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing it every turn.
No, God,
he's going to be running around just like picking on units, being a general nuisance for most of the game. That's going to be his job, is just going in, sniping off a unit, and then jumping into another unit, and then jumping into the next one. Just basically keeping the opponent tied up, keeping them busy thinking about him and not the wider game in general.
But then, so what you were saying before, though, as well, in terms of all this kind of stuff that you're buffing, how many points is a solitaire?
A solitaire, he's 98 points.
Okay, so he's not super expensive, but then you've spent 5 command points on him, whether you've earned one back or not. And you've used 2 psychic powers on him, which carries a cost, right? Like, if you're going to stack it up that much, obviously you want the return on that investment. And obviously, the thing you're talking about there as well is you're talking about the fact that they're going to be missing on 1, 2, 3s, and 4s, generating you mortal wounds. But if you're using the orc comparison, they're still hitting you on 6s, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about, I mean, by some miracle, you're talking about 15 orcs attacking. So 15 orcs attacking is 60 attacks. So the orcs will hit you 10 times, maths. And they'll wound you 7 times. And then you got 3 up invuln, right?
Yeah.
So you will pass 5 saves. Okay, fine. So you take 2 wounds. How many wounds you got? 5?
Yeah.
So at the exchange of that, and then of the 60 attacks that they threw at you, half of them will be a 1, 2... Oh, no, God, more than half of them, right? So 40 of those will be... will be mortal wounds. So yeah, you will wipe out the squad. And you'll emerge with only 2 wounds with 3 wounds left for it, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. But then you will get shot to pieces.
He will get shot to pieces, but
unless this guy has deployed his army in the most ridiculous way imaginable, or you've positioned yourself in the most advantageous position possible. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there were worse scenarios to deal with for sure. I mean, that is pretty terrifying. I mean. Yeah, all right, fair enough, you've sold me. Sounds great.
There was another mask form, which is the Midnight Sorrow, which allows you to move an additional D6 inches when you fall back. But you can consolidate up to 6 inches.
Okay.
So when you charge, you do your 2D6 charge, and then you've got the 3-inch consolidation into combat. Or in this case, you've got a 6-inch consolidation, so you can then whip around units, putting yourself in the best position so that once that unit's dead, you can then consolidate into the next unit and kind of hide yourself in there. Or that extra like few inches could be enough to put you inside a building, kind of thing.
Big time.
Yeah.
Is there any shenanigans involving transports, like getting out after it's moved, or have you covered that?
There is one which allows you to disembark after it's moved, but I think it's a warlord trait.
That might be. I had one of these guys charging my gallant in turn 1.
Yeah, it's horrible.
They are well cheeky. Phil, are you excited by the sound of the solitaire and all of his fun?
He sounds like he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. It'd be quite interesting to see if it. Have you actually tested it out to see if it does work, rather than in theory it should work?
I haven't tested him out yet. I've got a game on Tuesday against Dan, and I've got another one this week in someone else. But he's a good character killer as well. And the good thing about Harlequins is they move over terrain as if it's not there.
Oh, that's true.
So they if so someone hides their character behind a building thinking they're not going to be attacked, then he can whip around and get them. I still do have 3 units in my army.
Oh, okay.
And that is 3 units of Skyweaver jet bikes. Just 2 in each, just to fill it out the outright attachment. And they've got the Star Bolasses and the Haywire cannons. And these are my things that are going to be dealing with tanks mainly and harassing knights with turns. And the Haywire cannons are assault D6, 24-inch range, strength 4 -1, 1 damage. If you target a vehicle on a roll of a 4+ to wound, the target suffers a mortal wound in addition to any other damage. So most vehicles you'll be wounding on 5s, so that's when they'll have to start taking normal saves as well. But if you roll a 6 to wound, it does D3 mortal wounds on top instead.
These guys can be super bothersome against like knight gallants and things like that as well, though, right? Because these guys, a knight gallant can't just walk out of combat with these guys because he can't step over them.
No, and the other way is you can just hide on top of a building where the knight gallant can't even reach you.
Well, yeah, there's also that stipulation, but you could, if you charged into him and you had the 3 different units deployed in different points around him, you could essentially, he'd have to either spread out his attacks or focus on one unit, because they've all got 3 up invuns, right? Or is it 4 up invuns?
They've got 4 up invuns.
It's still really good. I mean, although it's probably not a bold, it's probably a very bold strategy because you're relying on 4 up invuns that are then preceded by D3 damage, so you could find yourself in a world of pain if you adopted that strategy.
No, I've had it happen to me. They can shoot a gallant and then charge it.
Yeah.
And the invuns mean they can't do... Surrounding the gallant so it can't get out isn't the problem. To be fair, when it happened to me, it was a very painful game. And I did take out a solitaire, 2 squads of under jet bikes when the gallant blew up. Because that's the only thing I could do to actually hurt the things. Because the amount of inruns that Harlequins have, they are really powerful and really just good. They're just really good, and especially against like an army like mine, which is where my big stuff was the knights, and I was up against it with them because he keeps making the saves. They don't die.
Yeah, and everything in my army has an invulnerable save as well. So the Harlequins and the Dark Elder, which is super useful as well.
Not the Calabite warriors though; they ain't got invulnerable saves.
Oh, not those, no, but they're hiding inside the transport.
That has an invulnerable save, right?
Yeah, which has an invulnerable save. So,
no bad thing.
What are you going to do when you play Narrow the Search?
Send
blown up.
The thing is about Narrow the Search is that you don't go into the bubble turn 1, turn 2. You kind of let your opponent commit into the bubble turn 1, turn 2, and then you kill them because they're in the middle with no saves, and then you take over the circle for turns 3, 4, potentially 5. Well, 3, 4, 5, and then potentially turn 6. So that's my plan on that mission: is let my opponent commit into the center, and then basically surround and kill him, and then pop up at the end.
So, my thoughts and feelings on this list, if you want to hear them, which I imagine you do, or maybe you don't,
I do.
But you're going to hear them anyway. So my only concern with the list, I think, is that, so you've got 10 CPs generated for the army, which becomes 9 because you're spending 1 on giving your solitaire a relic, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
There's no other relics or other things that reduce the overall CPs, right?
No.
So, throughout the course of you explaining the army list, I've heard a lot of references and a lot of emphasis on a number of quite expensive stratagems, and I know obviously you're generating back CPs for spending these stratagems, but there's a lot of talk about 2 CP here, 2 CP there, lots and lots of command points being thrown around, and obviously I do worry about you sound like you have an army that within a turn or 2 turns will completely deplete itself of resources really, really quickly, because Agents of Vect is 4 CPs and it's super important, so you're always going to want to try and hold on to that. So I think you're going to find yourself wrestling with opportunities that you may or may not take advantage of because you're scared of spending the CPs because you're relying on holding on to a Vect because of the fact that all Drukhari Dark Elder players are holding on to Vect. And also, starting out with 9 CPs, you've essentially gifted yourself 2 Vects with a reroll for one of the outcomes, and then you're in a weird dynamic where it's like, well, really, I can only guarantee or really rely on 1 Agents of Vect. But then, even with that in effect, as I've kind of already made clear, because you have so many other CP-related, things that you want to do with the army, I'm just sort of, as much as I understand why you're going for the Solitaire, and I understand why you're going for the Harlequins, and I understand the inclusion of the Haywire and all this sort of stuff, to me it feels like you need 2 battalions.
Yeah, I have juggled with the idea of 2 battalions, but then that does then degrade my killing potential, if that makes sense. So I could drop 3 Razor Wings, but then I lose a lot of my ability to have units at the back of the board taking out like bothersome units, which need to be dealt with, and then being a general threat.
Does the amount of CP you have give you enough to do like your Solitaire charge and 1 Vect still?
It does. So I'll get to do the Solitaire thing, and I get to do 1 Vect, but I'm not banking on doing all of this stuff every game. I tend to spend like turn 1, turn 2, maybe doing a Fire and Fade, or normally like lightning fast reflexes. I try and save my CPs for the late game once my opponent's kind of like just blown through them all. So then later on, so like turn 3, turn 4, and my opponent's like, oh, I need to do this last save on my knight to keep him on the table, or I need this 1 CP to reroll the save on my warlord. And that's when I'll go Vect, because I haven't spent all my points earlier on. Or you come up against, I don't know, another Eldar player kind of thing. You want to outmaneuver the other Eldar player. You don't want to spend all your time stopping their stuff. And I haven't got any deep striking units, so I don't have to worry about stratagems that like do intercepting.
That makes sense, man. I mean, yeah, it's interesting for sure. I just think, as I say, my only thing is, and Richie is right. Yes, you can do. I mean, to be fair, I don't think you're ever going to be in a situation where the charge thing for your Solitaire costs you 5 CPs, because realistically, it's only going to cost you 3, because it's going to be the 1 for not being overwatched and the 2 for Fire and Fade. You're never really going to worry about the +1 to wound, because you're actually more interested in being hit than you are in hitting.
That's where his capabilities like come into their own, is when he's being attacked, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Especially if you're coming up against like big stuff as well. Like, for instance, you come up against a knight, and he charges into a knight from behind cover. I'm not spending CPs on not being overwatched. And then the knight player's like, okay, I'm going to stomp you with my 12 attacks. You go, okay, cool. Like, you do realise that like 6 or 7 of these attacks are going to be hurting you in return, kind of thing.
What's to stop your opponent just not attacking you in combat?
You have
to.
Do you have to?
Yeah, you do have to. You can do a trick where you can opt not to use the weapons that they have, so you can basically because every single model in the game is assumed to have a close combat weapon in the rules, so you can opt not to use your power fist, not to use your feet, not to use anything, you can just default to the one attack weapon, but you wouldn't. But that only works.
Can't you just choose not to activate a unit in the fight phase?
No, you have to act. If you're within an inch, you have to fight the combat. You can try and blag it where you can go, oh, I forgot, but like obviously Joe isn't gonna just let that happen.
Yeah. So like the only way you'd be able to do it is when you consolidate. For instance, if you want to charge a unit that you don't want to kill, but you want to be stuck in combat for the first turn. Say you're charging like 2 tactical marines with a squad of terminators, but you don't want those tactical marines dead. So you charge in, you put 1 terminator within an inch, and all the others outside of an inch. And when you go, I want to consolidate, but I'm not going to consolidate within an inch. So only 1 terminator attacks you with his feet, because one hand's holding a gun and the other one's a power fist, or headbutt you. I might kill one by accident, but the other one will live. That unit's now activated, the damage is dealt, and then the rest of the Terminators consolidate in, thus trapping that single Marine.
Yeah, so there are ways around it, but yeah, I mean, essentially... But there's the other thing, right? I mean, like, so the Orc player doesn't have to consolidate into you. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So if they know what you're doing, they'll just be like, yeah, cool, crack on. And then it's like, and then you'll kill them.
I'm not sure, guys. And this was an FAQ. You don't have to choose to fight in the fight phase, to my knowledge.
No,
I'm pretty sure you do.
You absolutely do.
I got the rulebook here, and it says choose a unit to fight with. Any unit that charged or has models with 1 inch of enemy unit can be chosen to fight in the fight phase.
Yeah, but the implication, I get where you're coming from. Where you
unless it says you have to. That doesn't say you have to fight.
Well, no, the wording of that is based on out of a selection of, say, 5 units that you can choose because they're all within an inch, you can choose one of them. It's not saying you can choose one of them.
It doesn't say you have to.
I think it's clarified in an FAQ or design commentary.
I think I've
talked about it before.
I think I found it in the FAQ, mate. So it's on page 4. If any of the FAQ, if any of your units are eligible to fight in the fight phase, can you choose for them not to fight this turn? Also, if any of your units charge in the charge phase, do they have to fight first in the fight phase? Or can you choose for them to wait until later in the phase? All eligible, and the answer is all eligible units must fight in the fight phase. They cannot pass and wait for another phase. Additionally, a unit must fight when it is time to do so. It cannot hold in order to fight later in the phase. So if a unit charged in the preceding charge phase, it must fight before any non-charging models in the fight phase, barring any related abilities. So yes, you 100% have to fight.
Well, that's interesting, because that doesn't feel like that feels like that FAQ is written not for this particular circumstance, which is when it's not in your interest to fight at all. But yeah, well, that's good to know, though.
I suppose the intent is that you're not supposed to know that the Harlequin, it's like one of those, to use a wrestling analogy, it's like when Mick Foley had a wrestling match against Edge at WrestleMania 22, I think it was, and Edge went and speared Mick Foley, and then he was rolling around the floor going, no, my shoulder, and it turns out that Mick Foley had wrapped himself in barbed wire, and, Edge wasn't to know when he ran in, spearing him away. So, yeah, there you go. That's what the Solitaire is. He's WrestleMania 22's Mick Foley.
Yeah, wrapped in barbed wire with Mr. Sock.
Yeah, with nothing but a sock. Yeah, that's the Harlequin's kiss. Mr. Socko! But yeah, no, I think, as I say, my only critique of the army is that you sound like you have a lot of reliance on a lot of very specific resources. And I don't think you have an abundance of those resources. Vet is a really good ability, but it's not great if you don't have CPs to feed it. Same is true of this Solitaire, and that's the only thing that I think is a potential issue.
I have spent a lot of games I've played where I've forced myself not to Vect. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because then I can, because my army is still resilient. The Warlord trait and the relic that my Archon get, which buffs my Ravagers, is super powerful, but you can only get that through being Blackheart anyway. And then at the end of the game, at the end of the games, I can look back and be like, okay, I should have vected there, or I should have vected there, or I didn't need to vect at all because I had the game under control.
No, I totally get it, mate. I think, again, someone running like a Kaladas assassin against you is going to be a pain, though, because, again, as soon as those stratagems go up in cost, it's... Yeah, because there's a lot of talk of Fire and Fade, a lot of talk of lightning fast reflexes, and a lot of other stacking abilities as well, right? I mean, you come into range of other, psychers that nullify your abilities, or you just don't succeed getting the extra minuses and so on, and then you start going, I've got a command point, reroll that, and then, it's one of those scenarios, isn't it, where... Yeah, and also as well against Imperial Knights, my concern would be that the Imperial Knight goes, okay, cool, I'll just use my my chainsword or my Paragon Gauntlet potentially, and then on the off chance if I get 1 or 2 hits and you fail one of those saves, you're dead, and then after that it goes, fair enough, I've taken 3 mortal wounds for trying to kill you, but here's the fun thing, Death Grip, and then you're soup.
Yeah, so but then it's one of those things. I've been learning is that like how much are command points worth in relation to units themselves and command and victory points. And it's like, am I going to spend these command points to save a 98-point single model, or am I going to use this command point to push a unit 6 inches to claim the objective, which could potentially win me the game, whereas that solitaire is just being bothersome.
Oh yeah.
So I wouldn't charge a solitaire into a knight anyway, because that would just be bonkers.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to be bonkers, right? You got to be bold. You got to be brave.
Be mad, but. I think you've just got to play your opponent. I think my army's got everything in it to deal with lots of different opponents.
I totally agree with you, mate. I think really all I was sort of focusing on there is a few little nitpicky points about resources, but overall I think it's pretty solid. I think the threat of Vect is often more terrifying than the reality, and I think that's definitely a psychological element that people need to be always aware of. I think. You definitely need to just keep playing your game irrespective of Vect. Obviously, if the Elder player, Drukhari player turns around to you and goes, I'm Vecting that, you've got to accept that for what it is and carry on, but you should always play your game as if it isn't in play, because a lot of the time, the Drukhari player doesn't really know what's best. There's a few kind of, established things that they want to stuff, like rotate iron shields or critical re-rolls or things like that orc ability that lets their looters have exploding 5s instead of exploding 6s. That kind of stuff is a no-brainer. But outside of that, most people don't really know what they were supposed to be vecting, so you just keep on playing the way you would normally.
But stratagems like that, it's like when you go like, an orc player is like, okay, I'm shooting my 15 looters into that venom, and I'm going to do exploding 5s. You wouldn't vect it just because it's overkill on the orc player side anyway, and you're spending 4 command points to maybe save a venom kind of thing.
But again, when they start split firing, though, obviously, and they go, okay, cool, 7 of them are going to fire at that flyer, and 7 of them are going to fire at that one, you start going, oh, actually, that's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. If he goes, I'm just gonna select that one unit, you go, oh, okay then, just carry on. Or I'll take it off now.
What do you reckon, Phil? Like the sound of that?
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. Beautiful. Wonderful. I love when Phil's get confronted with anything elfy. He's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it sounds great. Whatever. Move on.
I've been thinking I'm going to deal with this solitaire, and I'm not going to pile in, and I'm going to remove my models from the front of the unit when I get killed, rather than the back.
I mean, that is really, yeah, not that I wanted this to turn into a work out how to beat Joe's army section, but yeah, that would be advisable. Don't pile in.
Remove all the models. If you do consolidate, just don't consolidate within an inch. So when when it comes to your turn, you won't be in combat with him then anyway.
That's it. But I like the list, Joe. Genuinely, I think it's got a lot of really interesting elements. Like I said, I think for me, if you could find some weaselly way to turn it into a double battalion, potentially there's something to be said for that, but I don't entirely know how you might go about doing that. I think if you dropped one of the unit of warriors and then took some troops, but then troops are expensive, and the troops are also... the Harlequin troop is... they're not... Unless you fill them up on fusion guns and things like that, they're not super useful. So I think, yeah, genuinely... No, it sounds pretty solid, man. I think, you got the potential to do well. Which is good, because, you deserve to qualify for a finals. It's long overdue.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. And if I can get an easy ride to the top like you do at all the other events, it'll be super good.
I love this constant assertion that I get easy rides. What is this? When did I last get an easy ride?
What were the armies that you played against at the last heat that I went to?
GT Heat 3, I started out the day playing against Custodes, which was easy, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Then I played against Tau, and that was one of the hardest Tau armies of the event, winning all the other games it played, so that was a tough match against a stuff player. I played against an Imperial Knight St. Celestine army, which also took me to the limit and almost beat me, but was incredibly tough, played by a great player. I also then, on the Thursday morning, played against an Italian Imperial Knight player, who again only lost to me, not Imperial Knights player, sorry, Astra Militarum player, who only lost to me, who had 3 captain smashes, 3 shield captains, and an Imperial Guard battalion, which was devastating. Loads of mortars, loads of long-range fire, loads of bodies, like a really, really optimized army list that was destroying everyone else. And I finished up by playing Tom from Honest Wargamer, who had brought a really, really well-optimized Orc army. So, yeah, I got an easy game against Custodes. That is true.
It's an easy ride to the top. That's what we're saying.
That's what we're saying. Except it really wasn't. It was actually 4 incredible opponents and a Custodes guy.
He's got an excuse for everything. This guy.
I know. This guy. What's he on about? I mean, admittedly, I'll give you this. Game 1 and 2 of the finals wasn't too hard. I played against the staff guy who turned up with an Astra Militarum tank army, which wasn't particularly difficult to beat. And then I actually can't even remember what game 2 was off the top of my head, but I remember it was really easily won. In fact, now I remember it was against Thousand Sons Renegade Knights, and yeah, it was super easy, that game. So yeah, games 1 and 2 of the finals were easy, but then I lost game 3, which was against this really good Scottish player who didn't have an incredible army, but I completely overestimated myself and lost. And then I had a good pep talk with Rich and Phil. They, specifically Rich, he gave me lots of good advice the night before, and then, I dragged it back. I got 3 wins against, again, 3 really, really good armies played by 3 really good players, so... There you go.
Play the mission, Dan. Play the mission.
Play the mission, mate. Play the mission. And for any of you out there who want to say that I'm super arrogant and full of myself, fair enough. That is what that is. I can't really argue it at that point.
Can I say it?
Yeah, of course you can. Well,
Yeah.
people in the comments say it all the time, so, why not join them, Rich? Is that just you? Is that what it is? You taking on alternative identities, just going, nah?
It's just me and Joe giving you grief.
Yeah, that's it. But you are right, Joe. I have an easy time. It's because I make it look easy, because I'm so good.
It's because you oversleep at every tournament, so you get the staff in the first game.
That's true. I do oversleep. It is true. That is the most irritating quality of me at every single Warhammer World event, is everyone's waiting outside, and normally I'm the guy who's driven everyone up there, so I'm the one that has to drive them to the venue. And they're like, come on, Dan! Why are you doing this to us? So yeah, there you go. It'll be the exact same at Heat 2, I'll be happy to tell you. That's how it's
And you'll be
go.
wearing your pajamas like you always do.
Mate, it's so sweaty in there. Honestly, take it from me. Get yourself some pajamas to wear in Warhammer World. It's the best.
Yeah. I'm going to go just tiny shorts.
God, it's because you've been playing with Steve Box all the time, isn't it? This is what this is inspiring you. You're going to start getting the vest tops and the little shorts. It's going to be what you're going for.
Oh, God, yeah. God, yeah. I'm gonna get
Have
super
you bought a
henchman.
bum bag yet?
I haven't, but I probably will because they are actually super useful for tournaments. And
I love Steve's influence on you. It's brilliant.
yeah, I'm a cleaner, healthier man for it. That's why.
Well, that's true. That is true. I can only take your word for that, but
Yeah.
it sounds fairly.
He's the reason I've got so good. That's why.
Well, you say that, but I've seen no proof of it yet.
It's because you don't play against me anymore through fear and fear alone.
Well, that's true. I am terrified. That is absolutely correct. I'm trying to protect my persona. Don't break down the walls, Joe. Don't expose me for what I am.
I don't want to play against your tournament list. I already know what it is for the listeners' knowledge. I don't want to play against it. So if we do play any games, I want to play against your old tournament list. That's the plan.
Yeah. When we gather on Tuesday, that's what we'll be playing against. And you'll probably beat it, but we'll see what happens.
Actually, have we ever played against each other, like any of us, against each other in a tournament? I don't think we ever have.
did doubles tournament many years ago.
Yeah, it was, but that was me and Mike versus you, Joe, and Phil, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then, me and Mike also played Phil and Richie in a doubles tournament as well.
Yeah.
And those are among some of my favourite games ever. Like, those were amazing. That was so much fun. I still remember Phil trying to concoct this amazing kind of conga line to try and basically create a situation where my Caluxus Assassin would die because he declare a ram on it or something back in 7th edition. And it was brilliant because Richie was there the whole time going, "No, Phil, it won't work. No, Phil, it won't work." And he's like, "No, if
I read this on the internet, it's going to work.
It was just brilliant. I loved it. It was fantastic. But yeah, the game where me and Mike played against you and Joe, Phil, was fantastic as well because because we were just swearing at each other like all the way through the game, like really not angrily, but just having a brilliant time, just slagging each other off as the game's going on, and all the people around us were like looking at us like, "What are these guys doing?" And it was just brilliant. It was that probably is my favourite game of 40k ever. That one there, that was fabulous. Good times.
Yeah, it was good fun.
Joe's not as good a doubles partner as he used to be.
Well, that's true, he's fallen from grace. Phil's the best doubles partner now. Me and Phil got 5 wins in a row. We didn't win the overall event because it was a Throne of Skulls thing and, whatever. But we got 5 wins, right, Phil? That's something.
It was quite impressive, yeah.
There you go. Anyway, I imagine that's about time for us to wrap up this section. Thank you very much, Joe, for taking us through your army. What do you think your overall result is going to be?
It's a difficult one. So historically, I go 3-2. Mm-hmm. So if I can get a 4-1 with 2, like 2 or 3 favorite game votes, favorite army votes, should hopefully bump me over the edge to qualify. If I could get 5 wins, I'll be happy. But I'll be over the moon, in fact. But 4 wins and some good votes would hopefully be enough.
No, absolutely, mate. Well, I think the scoring system has been updated for this one to the point that you get 10 points for a win, and then
5 for a draw.
Yeah, 5 for a draw, and then nothing for a loss.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if
draws are super rare.
Draws
are super difficult to get a draw.
It is now, yeah, certainly, but it does happen. So I think the thing is though, if you get 3 wins and a draw, I think that puts you in a pretty good place because that'll obviously give you 35 tournament points. And then if you can get a handful of favourite army, a handful of favourite game votes, which is totally within your grasp because you're a very likeable fella, and you seem to paint quite a reasonable looking army from time to time. I should know, I own enough of them. So, and again, if we looked at GT Heat 1 results, which I'm going to frantically try and do now while talking. So, yeah, looking at the top 35 from Heat 1, the majority of people who qualified had won 3 games, lost 2. Well, not the majority. The majority of people who qualified won 4 games, lost 1. But there were plenty of people who won 3 games, lost 2, who got through with, one guy got through with 4 secondary points, so 1 favourite player, 3 favourite army, and then the rest of the pack is made up of 2 favourite player, 2 favourite army, 3 wins, 2 losses. So it seems, looking at this, if you can get 4 wins and a loss, you're absolutely in it. If you can get 3 wins and a draw, you're also in it. You know, you can even do it with 3 wins, 2 losses.
Yeah.
But as we're seeing here, there are plenty of people, because of a lack of favourite game and favourite army votes, who didn't achieve it. And it's fair to say, the amount of people with 3 wins and 2 losses is a pretty big pool. So it starts from, I mean, there's actually people in like 51st
How many
place
players
with-
were there altogether?
So there was, in the last GT heat, there was 102 players.
Wow.
So of the 102 players, there were 35 who qualified, and of that 35, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them won 3, lost 2.
But then they had high favourite game votes.
Yeah, so Steve Pardo was the highest in favourite game votes, with 5 favourite game votes, 4 favourite army votes. And he had 3 wins, 2 losses, and he came 18th. So,
Wow.
He won the Best Sportsman Award because he's the guy. Steve's the guy that runs the No Retreat event.
yeah, so he did really
Did
well.
anyone with 3 wins not qualify?
Yes, so positions 36 through to 47, and then as low as, and then there's a couple of people who came higher than them with 2 wins and a draw, and then the lowest guy who won, who the highest, the lowest rated guy with 3 wins, 2 losses, came 52nd. And he was a guy with a Chaos Demons army who won 3, lost 2, and got absolutely no favourite game or favourite army votes.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a broad area, but it's doable.
yeah. But those people make up over a third of the event pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, if you can get 3 wins and a draw, you've basically done it.
yeah.
3 wins, a draw, and some secondary scores will see you through. But there's no one here with 3 wins and a draw who didn't qualify. Yeah, so 3 wins and a draw guarantees you qualifying.
Okay.
So there you go. Cool, man.
That's what I've got to aim for.
I think so, mate. I think so. But I think you've got it in you to do the 4 wins, and I think again, the thing is, it's so luck of the draw as much as anything. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
It's one of
brilliant.
the-
Oh,
I was gonna say, if I can win my first 3 games and ebb out either a win or a draw on Sunday, then that's what I'll go for.
amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for that, Joe. Let's now move on to the quiz.
Fingers on buzzers, everyone, because it's time for the end of the show quiz.
Hello, welcome back, everyone. It's time for the end of the show quiz. I hope you all enjoyed last week's, it's 2 weeks ago, isn't it? It's not really last week's. On the last episode, we did our contrast paint themed round. If you enjoyed it, I'm glad, but it's not the theme of this week, so don't get your hopes up, guys. If you've been swatting up to try and beat Joe, Dan and Phil, it's not going to help you this time.
No, that's it. That's it. It's always tempting as well, isn't it? I'm just sort of highlighting the thing that you said last week's episode, as it were. It's always the same thing. I do it all the time. I always want to refer to the last episode as having taken place last week. It's just a weird natural instinct that is odd to deal with, I imagine.
I just keep saying it because I think you guys should do it weekly, that's all.
Is that what it is? You're
I'm
trying...
just trying to subtly get it in there, maybe.
I see. It's very clever.
We will see.
It's
But
very
this is a very important quiz this week, because this quiz today, this week, because each of you has won it once apiece. This will determine who goes out in front for the first time.
Ooh, not
First
since
time-
Phil.
Yeah, not since Phil's amazing first week one, which he's failed to live up to ever since.
Oh no, it's crushing.
But shall we do the bi-weekly ritual of the testing of the buzzers?
Why ever not? Phil,
Let's
did you
do it.
actually get around to listening to last week's episode? Oh, see, look, I
did.
did it last episode. Did you like
did.
the inclusion of that song that you love so much?
No.
Oh,
Which is why, when I test my buzzer this time, it's going to be my fixed bayonets.
Oh, is it?
The classic.
Fair enough. Please, Phil, put it to the test.
Oh, yes, I'll press my buzzer now.
Well, there we are.
Perfect, that sounds exactly like it should be.
Exactly. That's precisely what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Good.
Without
Stick with the classic.
knowing it, can it please be the screaming goat?
That's yours. It's iconic for you and you alone.
Oh.
Absolutely. Although Joe last time around, he almost said week again, he had the whole weird murdering people quote from a David Firth YouTube video from Fat Pies. You were a fan of that, weren't you, Joe?
I love it. I've shown many people that video
Yeah.
and how incredibly hilarious and mind-bending it is. It needs to be watched. If anyone ever has the chance to go away and watch it.
I'll put
Do
a
it now.
link in the description, Joe. There you go. For anyone who's made it this far and had also listened to last week's episode. Ah! See, Rich here, it's infectious. Who's listened to the last episode, I will, include that for people's enjoyment. It'll be wonderful.
Yeah. Do it. Do it now.
You going to do your buzzer anyway then, Joe? What you got this week?
I'm pressing my buzzer now.
I can't wait to put it in my mouth.
I mean, that is fabulous. What a wonderful buzzer you've got this time around, Joe.
I am so excited. It is that sound.
There you go. I may as well, I suppose, press my buzzer now. Here we are. So there you go. Exciting stuff all around. Rich, before you kick off with the quiz, can I offer some live on-air feedback?
You can give me some live on-air feedback.
I think it's better when you inform us of the ongoing score, because it adds tension to the overall thing. Last time around, we didn't do it, and to be fair, it's pretty obvious that Joe was running away with it after having guessed the volume of paint on multiple occasions. But I went back and listened to the time where I kind of came back from 1 point to being the overall winner, and I thought, oh, that was quite good, because at the end of each section you went, oh, so-and-so's on 1 and so-and-so's on 2, and da-da-da-da-da. Just, you know, build the tension. But it's a bigger payoff.
We can do that. We have 2 sections this time.
Ooh.
With 2 sections, 2 different themes. For regular listeners who like to know, I like to mix it up every round, so you never know what it's going to be. Okay, so are you boys all ready?
Yeah.
For this week's quiz?
I believe so.
Scores. We're taking your feedback on board. Dan, the scores are currently nothing apiece. All is level. All is to play for.
Ooh.
The buzzers have been reset, and we'll begin round 1, which I'm going to call No, I should have thought about this ahead of time. This is the this is the who would be in a chapter like this round, where I will tell you the name of a famous named character Space Marine, and you have to tell me which chapter they are from.
Ooh.
So this is going to be hopefully an interesting one, or one that Phil will complain about because it's not about
Krieg.
Krieg. But we'll see. Let's see how it goes. So you can buzz in whenever you want.
Yep.
First question number 1. Which Space Marine chapter does Marnius Calgar belong to? Oh, Dan was in first.
That would be the Ultramarines. The Ultramarines.
It is indeed the Ultramarines. Well done. First point goes to Dan.
Yeah!
Well done.
Exactly. There
That
you
was
go.
the easy one.
Does he have a flat free damage on his on his Gauntlets of Ultramar?
Only
he
when you
doesn't.
play him.
Only when I play him. Oh yeah, that's it.
No, he doesn't. Curiously, he only has D3.
Oh, there we go. What a fool.
Moving on to our question number 2. Which Space Marine chapter belongs or is a member? You know, I'm doing it. Captain Lysander. Dan's buzzed in first.
That would be the Imperial Fist.
It is the Imperial Fists. Well done.
Yay! I know Space Marine characters.
I see this will be an ongoing trend for the rest of the section, I imagine.
Joe knows Space Marine characters too.
Joe's
He
been
just
good
speaks
to
slow.
buzz in. I mean, you just have to buzz in quicker and have a go.
I'm
Phil.
going to hover my finger directly above the button
Well, why aren't you doing that already?
because I like to build suspense in myself.
So, question number 3. I'll work more into it. This time, it's a librarian.
Oh, I pressed the bloody button already.
Joe's already pressed. Joe, who do you think it is?
Who do you think it is, Joe?
Is it Chief Librarian Mephiston of the Blood Angels?
It is not Chief Librarian Mephiston of the Blood Angels. Would anyone else like to buzz? Dan's buzzing in.
Is it Ezekiel of the Dark Angels?
It is not Ezekiel of the Dark Angels.
Oh!
Hey, Phil, you've
You've
got a chance to
got
come
one
back
left,
now.
Phil.
Okay.
I can tell you, you don't even have to buzz in, Phil. I can tell you the name of the character,
Okay, good.
and then you can guess it in. So the name of the character is Magister Severin Loth.
Oh.
I know this one.
I know this one too! Oh, dang it!
I'm going to say Space Wolves?
No, reset it, let me
It's not
buzz!
the Space Wolves. It's not Space Wolves. No one's going to get it because I'm not going to let you two guys get it.
Oh, alright, fair enough, I don't mind that.
That's not it. The correct answer was the Red
Red
Scorpion.
Oh, I was going to say Red Scorpions. and
Well,
I was
you
like,
didn't,
no,
Phil,
it
you
won't
did
be-
the other
it
great
won't be
one.
a trick question like that.
You should know they're not even called librarians, they're flipping wolf priests or wolf lords or something or other, Wolfie. It's old Nigel as well. He's the wolf, he's the number one wolf.
Okay, question number 4. Fingers on buzzers. Can't think of a clever way to tease this one. Actually, I'm going to quickly Google them and see if I can tease this in a more interesting way.
Okay, fair enough. I will wave my hands up in the air so no
Okay.
one notices the
They
Google.
wield a hammer. That's your pre-game hint if you want to guess at the fact they wield a hammer. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, do you want to? Oh, do you want to? No, I'm not going to let you go, Joe, because Dan's got 2 points and you've got nothing.
oh.
Okay, the name of the character is Gabriel Angelos. Oh, first buzz in was Phil.
Ah!
Blood Ravens.
It was the Blood Raven.
Had I answered off that one, I would have probably gone with Arjak from the.
Yeah, I was going to say Jack.
Yeah.
I would have actually said the Blood Ravens because I knew he had a hammer.
Because it's a 4-year-old chapter, isn't it, Phil?
Exactly, that's why I know that.
Well,
one.
yeah, but you didn't know Red Scorpions,
Well,
did he?
well, I sort of did, but I just second guessed
yeah.
myself, and I was like, no, it won't be that.
Okay, question number 5. I don't actually know if this one has a model, but it does have rules. Okay, fingers on buzzers. Which chapter does Chaplain Dreadnought Titus belong to? Oh, Phil's buzzed in.
I'm going to say Ultramarines.
It is not the Ultramarines. Next was Joe.
Is it the Salamanders?
It is not the Salamanders. Dan.
I'm going to go with. Oh, I can't remember the name of the Raptors.
It's not the Raptors. You're in the right ballpark. It was the Howling Griffins.
Oh,
jeez.
okay. There you go. I knew it
Okay.
wasn't going to be one of like the mainstream ones, but then I was thinking it must be like a Forge Wolf thing, and then I was like, Raptors, but no. There you go.
And there's actual rules for that guy.
Oh yeah. He's an old. There's lots of characters that had Forge World rules back when Forge World published books, like the Aphelion Project.
Is he in 8th edition in the index then?
It is in the index, isn't it?
Right.
So after round 1, the scores are Dan with 2,
Yeah.
Phil with 1,
Ooh.
and Joe on the starting grid. All to play for
Oh,
those.
Joe with 0. Should have been a good round for you, Joe.
Well, because you got in there a little bit quicker than I did.
There you go. There you go.
I like to build the suspense and keep you waiting. I'm holding it all to the end, you see.
There you
The
go.
last 2 questions, and you're going to swoop in.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's gonna bring it back from the brink.
Well, there's only 5 questions left. It's tight and action packed this time. So this is this is an interesting round. I've done this one. I don't have a clever name for it, but the idea is I have taken the name of a well-known stratagem, and I have replaced one of the words in the name of the stratagem. and then you have to guess what the actual name of the stratagem is. So I'm going to say a sentence, a phrase, a name, and one of those words has been changed from the actual stratagem. Any questions so far?
No, so it's just the name of the stratagem, not the contents of the stratagem, is it?
Yes, it's just the name of the stratagem. I've changed one word.
Okay.
And we're going to start with an easy one.
Oh.
I think it's an easy one. So fingers on buzzers. What stratagem am I talking? What's the actual name of the stratagem? The phrase I have is Veterans of the Long Night. Dan buzzes in first.
That would be Veterans of the Long War.
It was the Veterans of the Long War. It's my Game of Thrones reference in there.
Yeah. I heard Joe huff with great dismay at that one. He's like, "No, damn you, no!"
Press the button, Dan.
Not as quickly as me, Joe. Not as
Okay,
quick.
fingers on buzzers, everyone. The next stratagem, with changing one word, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. First to buzz in was Phil.
Oh!
Agents of Vect.
It is Agents of Vect.
Oh, not the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That was good. Good.
Okay, next up. 3 questions to go, all to play for technically everyone. Although if Joe does, it's all on you, Joe. You might as well buzz in as soon as you possibly can. Just have a go at this one. Otherwise, you haven't got a chance. So here we go. Question number 8. Tree Spirit Resurgent.
I can't wait to put
It was
in
Joe
my
first.
mouth.
Machine Spirit Resurgent.
That's correct. Joe is off the starting grid.
Ooh.
Well done, Joe.
Yeah, I'm the best.
That's the one.
Might as well be. You're back in the game, so to speak. All right. Question number 9. City of Angels.
I buzzed. Why haven't I buzzed?
Well, because I don't want you to get it right, because then it's kind of over. Oh,
Okay.
yes, Dan buzzed in first. What do you think it is, Dan?
Descent of Angels.
It is the Descent of Angels.
Yay! Ooh.
Some nonsense. Smash Captain filth.
You've done all the ones that Dan is very familiar with.
As are the two of you, also very familiar with these, being on the receiving end.
I don't know what it's called. I just know what it does.
Again, for the final question, which I'll give 3 points for this one, just to try and make it interesting, because Dan has 4, Phil has 2, Joe has 1.
Ooh.
So the final question: what's the real name of the stratagem? Command bread roll. Phil buzzed first.
Command reroll.
It is Command reroll. And Phil gets the 3 points as previously mentioned.
Woo!
3 points. Come on
No
now.
one disagreed with.
Back with the crown.
No, but this is madness. You can't give him
Back with
3
the crowd.
points for that.
You liked the tension, Dan. That you wanted the tension, and you've got
You
it.
wanted-
You wanted a winner coming from behind on the last.
I
question.
did, but I didn't want someone to be given 2 charity points. That's mental. Come on, Phil. We'll do a tiebreaker. You and me. You and me, Phil.
I'm good.
Put it all on the line.
We can do a tiebreaker.
Exactly. Where's the rules pack for this quiz?
What's the current score now, then?
Well, now you're on 5 to my
It's
4.
first
Well,
place
it's not
is
really a
Phil's got
tiebreaker.
5, Dan's got 4, and Joe's got 1.
But Phil only answered 3 questions correctly.
Yeah, to be fair, that is quite true.
Hey, if
This
the
is like
time-
that time you gave Joe bonus points.
Can't
This is
argue that.
madness. Madness, I tell you.
Well, I don't really have any tiebreaker questions.
Oh,
so
brilliant. Well, there we go. Joe, you got anything?
Hang
Can I throw a shoe over a roof? Will that get me the result?
on. Let me just grab a codex quickly.
Okay.
Alright.
I'm also working on a
I am.
tiebreaker here.
Well,
We
no. Phil won by the rule. These
No,
mad
no,
rules.
no.
What?
No. You ready?
All right, okay, I'm ready.
Well, how are we
Well,
going
we
last
can't- we-
week?
we're
Because
not-
we don't have the
I'll do
buzzer.
the buzzers.
Here we go. So there we are. The buzzers are ready.
I'm going to change both words here.
Both words?
Well, it could be any 2-word strategy.
All right then, fine.
No, do it. Let's see what happens.
No, no.
Huh? Say it again, Joe.
Austin, stop talking. I'm
Okay.
in charge here. Auditory scan.
A buzz.
That's right.
I was sort of thinking. Technically, I buzzed first, but it was Dan according to the machine.
It's Auspex scan.
That is correct.
There you go, Phil. Take that.
So what? We're now on a draw.
Oh, God.
No, you lose, Phil.
You lose, Phil.
I feel like I'm being ganged up on for legitimately winning as per Richard's rules.
You lose all games from now on, officially.
I imagine the audience can decide who the overall winner of this farce of a quiz was, but thank you very much, Rich.
Hopefully, the winner is the listeners.
Exactly.
We got to enjoy some. If they didn't, then I apologise. That quiz kind of went a bit awry.
Well, it did. It was because I should have just taken the
What?
foot off the gas a little bit, given a bit more of an opportunity.
Yeah. I imagine you'll just edit it out so I never got the 3 points, and then you can claim you were the rightful winner.
I mean, that's going to take a bit of editing to do, but it's not outside of my realm. It's not outside of my abilities to do, I imagine. But
All you need is me to say something like, "Well, congratulations, Dan, you've won." And
Thank
then
you very
just
much,
re-edit
Rich.
that in.
There you go. I appreciate the victory. There you go. I think everyone knows who really won, and that's the important thing. I think when we all search deep inside our souls, we know who the real winner was today.
You
And
mean
it was
me?
Joe! Well done, Joe! Anyway, I pretty much imagine that has concluded episode 24 of the Lookout Surf 40k podcast. A really nice actual little milestone, actually, as well, because unannounced to anyone from the outset of this glorious exercise, I think we've now actually done a whole year of this. Is that an accurate fact?
I don't know. Is it?
I think it is. If I was to go back and look at our channel, which I'm doing right now, and I was to go to our videos, we were to post on YouTube anyway. The very first episode went out, according to YouTube, 1 year ago. It went live on the 20th of June, 2018. So we're a year old, everybody.
Yay!
There
Does
we are.
we get cake then?
Well, I got cake last time to mark our 20th episode, but you guys didn't eat it. It was ridiculous. I bought the cake,
What?
I brought it to Warhammer Fest, and no one wanted it.
I wasn't even there for the cake.
Well, yeah, but we threw a piece of cake onto the dual carriageway by the Rico Arena in memory of you.
What, in case I was wandering around, like, snuffling for truffles?
Well, no, but the idea was as if it maybe landed on the wheels of a car, and then maybe the car was driving to your part of the world, and then in some weird roundabout way, the cake, at least part of it, could have been deposited somewhere in the air around your house, Could have been possible.
Yeah. Well, as if it flicked off the wheel into my mouth unsuspected.
I mean, it could have happened, Joe. I mean, that was the goal of it. But no one was interested in the cake. I bought cake. Phil made a big song and dance about the fact that I never actually followed it through and delivered cake in the past. I made the effort. I carried the cake around with me at the Rico Arena, and was ready to supply it to everyone when they wanted it. And I said, "Oh, anyone for cake now?" No, no, not cake yet. We'll do cake later. And later never came. So I had to eat all that cake, bar the piece that I threw in the road for you.
I'm a little bit sick to my stomach on the lack of dedication on cake eating.
I know. Well, if it makes everyone feel better, I definitely, held up my end, and I took one. Oh, I took several pieces for the team.
As it were.
Exactly. But yeah, a year old, everybody. Congratulations to us all. We've all done something exceptional, and thank you very much to all our listeners. And there's that. We probably should have made a whole thing out of this in the intro, but I kind of like the fact that we're not mentioning it and just chucking it in at the end for people who, for our dedicated listeners who go this far. 1 year old. Well done us. And with that said, does anyone have any closing statements, thoughts or feelings that they want to make people aware of?
If anyone's got any contrast black that they'd be willing to sell me, I'd appreciate some. I'm failing miserably to get a hold of the black contrast.
Phil desperately needs Black Templar accessories.
There we go.
Specifically transfers, I think, more than anything.
I love it. This was an awesome opportunity to give some heartfelt sentiments to our long-standing listeners for the course of the year, and we're just using it to blag stuff.
Well, I'd like to say a preemptive hello to all the listeners we may see at the upcoming GT heats, because that's usually we bump into some of our more competitively leaning fans. So, and I always enjoy meeting people who are aware of us to some degree.
It's the strangest thing, actually, when you meet people who go, I listen to you while driving to work and all the rest of it, and it's like, ooh, that's really weird. I just assume I'm doing this and no one's listening, but here you are, people in real life. I mean, to be fair, it's mostly people in and around the Wiltshire area who know Joe, by all accounts. That's the bulk of our listeners. And to all of you, huge thank you. I don't want to make it sound like I don't appreciate and enjoy your attention, because clearly I need it in my life. Yeah. Fill me with warmth.
It sustains you, doesn't it?
It does. I feed on it. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Don't know where I'm going with any of this. But there you go. That was episode 24 of the Lookout Surf 40k podcast. A year in the making. I'm not sure if we've gotten better or worse as the year has gone on, but maybe you could let us know. There's a nice thing to tell us. Are we worse than when we started? And if so, why? That'd be lovely to hear about. And if we're better than when we started, obviously, feel free to let us know about that as well. So yeah, there is episode 24. On behalf of me and everyone else here with me, thank you very much, everybody, and good night. Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Goodbye. See you all next week.
Bye-bye. Richie, we're not doing it weekly yet. Don't you do this to me. Don't you make this happen. Anyway, bye-bye. Bye, everyone.